Clicking live.
TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all around the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. Hey, you know, AP, there are a lot of great days in apologetics and polemics history. There are a lot of great days in history, period. There's the day that Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Although Candace Owens says never happened. There's the day that Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." The day Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." And then there's the day that D. Wood and AP released McDonald's McMuta video and our dope Islamic Dilemma song all on the same day.
Indeed. Indeed. That's what happened.
Crazy.
It's a wonderful day, man. It's a wonderful day. I finally published it, and we're proud of that.
Wonderful, wonderful day to be alive. And now everyone can jam out to the smooth reggae jams of the Apostate Music Channel.
And I'm already working on my second song, which I'm about
What
to
are you talking
publish
about? But you had like 20 songs. When we were riding around, you had like 20 songs. What do you mean?
No,
what do you mean your second song?
No, I'm working on publishing it, so getting that ready. Yeah.
Okay.
My Zabiba song.
Oh, Zabiba, I got a big Zabiba. That's a little taste of what's the next song's gonna be, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Tick toot, time to zoot. Oh man. So, hey, why don't we go ahead and start off? For those who haven't heard it.
What with McMuta?
Wait a second. Someone's asking, did you watch God Logic Destroy the other day? What do you mean? Like which day? God Logic was destroying every day. It was an epic massacre. And now people can understand. Darn it. People can understand. You see, we look back at the Revolutionary War and we wonder, how did the world's most powerful army run up against a couple of farmers with pitchforks and just get crushed and sent back across the ocean? How did that happen? You had the most powerful military on the planet come and face Jeb and Jedediah and stuff like this, coming out the barn with their pitchforks, and they sent those tea drinking, crumpet eating British dorks back across the ocean. People wonder, how is that even possible? Well, number one, we don't drink tea, we drink coffee, so that helped. But here
That's a big mistake.
Here you see it even again, right? Like, how can this happen? And then one American goes across the ocean and completely, basically conquers the entire stupid island.
It is a ridiculous island to begin with. It is. It is an island where literally, where the Islamist goes and says, "We love converting these British girls, and they take it really, really well." And British people are just sitting there like, oh mate, that's slightly offensive, mate. But whatever, you do what you do. That's it. That's how British people are, man.
And just think about it, man. If one American could go over there and just crush the entire Dawa, like what if the British people actually, that's the point, right? It's massively weaker than people think. People look at us, oh, this is strong and unstoppable. No, it just looks that way because everyone backs down from it like a bunch of sniveling cowards. The second anyone stands up to it, it crumbles. It crumbles. Yeah. Do the math, guys. Do the math. So anyway, so yes, I would know what you mean. God Logic was wrecking everything and everyone in his path over there, and so were a bunch of there. Because I said one guy goes across there. There were actually there were more people, and they were crushing it. And you do have a bunch of British apologists and polemicists and so on who are over there crushing it and so on. They're just. It's kind of like people are trying to play catch up because the Dawa guys have been doing it for decades and they've been building a lot of momentum. And now you got like a handful of people responding to it. But The Dawa's crumbling, man. The Dawa's crumbling, and it is awesome to watch. And speaking of the Dawa crumbling, in case you missed it, everyone, we're going to check out the Islamic Dilemma song. The Islamic Dilemma song. It is a song about the Islamic dilemma, produced by the Apostate Prophet himself. We're going to check it out. Everyone needs to share it. Everyone needs to share it all over the place because it's not just a total jam. It is packed with the Islamic dilemma. And everyone needs to learn the Islamic dilemma. And what we want is young people walking around humming and singing this song and the lyrics sinking deep into their hearts and minds so that everyone knows what the Quran says about the Bible. So let's check out the song, ladies and gentlemen. Link is in the description box. Make sure you share it all over the place. Here goes.
Tell me now, my brother, why do you say my book's been changed?
Good point.
When your own book told you to read it.
Read.
Something don't add up.
Good point.
They say the Quran straight from above, every word from the mouth of God's love. But then it tells me the gospel is light, and to judge by what's in it, that's right. So I open it up and read what it says. Jesus died and he rose from the dead, but your book says no, he never died. So which one's true? Somebody lied. Who told you to judge by it if it's broken? Why call it light then claim it was stolen? You can't play both sides with one story. Your claim crashes down in all its glory. Surah 5 says to follow the word given to Christians straight from the Lord. Surah 10 says if you're unsure, ask the people who knew it before. But our gospel says Jesus is Lord, crucified, risen, that's what's stored. And our scriptures older than yours, written down long before Muhammad's doors. So tell me, friend, what do you choose? If you pick both, then both you lose. If the gospel is true, the Quran is wrong. If it's false, then why does it play along? And if God's word can never be changed, who corrupted it and who arranged? And why does your book lean on mine while calling its heart a faulty sign? Who told you to judge by it if it's broken? Why call it light then claim it was stolen? You can't praise the map then toss out the way. You build on the rock, then dig it away. Now some say only part is true, but your book never said which part to view. Is it Matthew or is it John? Tell me which verse to lean upon. But truth ain't served by picking and choosing. That's not faith, that's just confusing. You either believe it or say it's a lie, but you can't stand in both camps and try. Or are you saying it's a trap and the prophet got it all mismatched, and the message built on contradiction, and the claim lacks solid conviction? Told you to judge by it if it's broken? Why call it light then claim it was stolen? Can't hold a sword and preach about peace, can't affirm the word then call it deceased. It's either from God or it's a fraud. The house won't stand if the walls are flawed. So tell me now, what will you choose? Truth doesn't lose when it's under review. Our word stood firm through fire and storm, while your book, well, it can't stay warm. Truth is one, it doesn't twist. This is the paradox you can't dismiss.
Based.
Extremely based, very based, very based. Very
funny
dirty
that you
bass.
played the whole song. I thought you were just going to play like a small part of it or something.
Oh yeah, then I forgot. I forgot. But now, guys, now you heard the song, now you heard the jam, the jammy jam, and link is in the description box. Be sure to share that everywhere. And as soon as it gets 1 trillion shares, then he'll release his next hit, the Zabiba song.
I was actually going to sit down and sing this myself, and then I started singing it, but I couldn't quite get it done. So
The Islamic Dilemma song or Zabiba?
The Islamic Dilemma song. The Zabiba song would be way too high for me. I would have to probably, I don't know, have my certain body parts squeezed by something while trying to make those sounds. But the Islamic Dilemma song would be singable. Maybe I should ask Elle if I can perform the Islamic Dilemma song.
Oh, at the conference live.
Yeah.
Hey, imagine. Hey, for the Zabiba song video, you could do most of it just this like the same there with Apostate or whatever. Your little Apostate Prophet. I think you do need pictures flashing of Zabibas up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You need a bunch of pictures.
Funny thing about
pictures of Muslims with their Zabibas, and then you got the guys with the double Zabibas, and then occasionally the triple Zabibas.
The funny thing with the Zabiba song is that, so the Islamic Dilemma song, I just came up with that as we were live at some point, and I was listening to you talk about the Islamic Dilemma, and I thought to myself, I want to make a song about that. And then it turned out very nice. With the Zabiba song, I was just reviewing some of our live streams. I was reviewing a live stream where we were talking about Sajid Lipham, and there was a part where you said, "What is that on his forehead? Is it a Zabiba?" And I jokingly said, I think it is a Zabiba. And then I followed it by saying, Zabiba, Zabiba, I got a big Zabiba. And then I thought, as I was rewatching that, I thought, hey, that's kind of a nice tune. So I sat down and turned it into a song, and it turned out very nice.
It did. It's a jam. No, everyone's gonna. That's one of those. That's one of those bangers that sticks in your head. You know what I mean? There'll be people going around. Zabiba, Zabiba, I got a big Zabiba. And people will share that. People will share that with their Muslim friends. But here, what you're really aiming at, man, what you're really aiming at is that Muslims will like the song and they'll be going around, Zabiba, Zabiba, I got a big Zabiba. Hey, you know what? This Apostate Prophet's all right, man. He's making songs about our Zabibas here, man. This dude's all right. Let me check out some of his videos and I'll see what he says about other things and believe whatever he says.
Nice.
Oh, here you go, AP. Has Ridvan already explained what happened with his baptism? Yes, like
I did.
Like 97 times.
Actually, only once, but
That too.
or twice.
Yeah.
However,
he either explained it once or 97,000 times, whichever comes first.
Whichever, pick one. Yeah, I did explain it, but I think I want to make a live stream about it just because, just to explain certain aspects of it. Because I think actually, so while I was initially upset about it, that the baptism did not take place yet, I later on kind of made peace with the fact, and also with the idea, and also with things that my priest said in the aftermath. It's like my priest was very upset about this because he was trying really hard to get me baptized, and in the Orthodox Church it is kind of the baptism means entry into the church, into the sacraments, and the bishop or whoever above is in charge can make certain rulings. And normally it is understood that somebody should be on average like in the church for a year before they get fully baptized into the Orthodox Church. So I kind of later made peace with the idea and listened to my priest, who also talked to me about it and told me some very, very nice things about it. So I think I should probably sit down and just talk about this separately. So I think I'm going to make a live stream about that.
Yes. So I guess the 1 year is, I guess that would be like for someone who walks in there and doesn't know anything, then it would be like, okay, so we want to make sure that the person has time to learn everything. And so we'll set a year as a guideline. And so with you, it was, well, he was already studying the Bible a lot, even when he was an atheist, responding to Muslims and so on. And then, so he already knew a bunch. And then he was wrestling with these things for a while. And then he read all the stuff. So let's fast track him. And then, no, you can't. You can't fast track dudes because then everyone's going to want to jump on the fast track, man.
The funny thing is, my priest, you have seen my priest, you were at the service, very old and very nice, nice priest, nice man from Greece. And yesterday, as we were talking, he told me, I watched your live stream, the one that you made on the night of the baptism being canceled, the one you made about Piers Morgan, and I thought to myself, oh, he watched my live stream. But he said only good things about it, and he also said, I didn't know you had that many voices, by the way. I find it very funny, he said. So yeah.
Wait, he watched the Pierce. Was that the one where we're insulting the young atheists, thinking they run the world and stuff? Is that
no? I think that was the one before. But this one was just about Piers Morgan attacking everyone and blocking everyone and all that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because the other one was on Piers Morgan. Was that on Piers Morgan? Those young dudes,
yeah.
And then Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson.
Was also about Piers Morgan. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. It's good to even watch that one because they'd be like, "AP, you're too mean. We're making 5 years. We're extending it to 5 years before you can be baptized."
But that's the funny thing. Like when he tells me, "Oh, I watched this thing that you did," I'm like, "Oh no! What did you watch? What did you watch? I hope you didn't watch this."
No, that's why. Because I just said this on your channel that we met that young dude who at your church who had converted to Islam and then said he was watching mine and Sam's videos and stuff, left Islam. Now he's in the Orthodox Church, and then he said, "Yeah, I still got a Muslim friend in Florida, man. I just sent him one of your videos." Like, "Oh yeah," he goes, "Yeah, the Al Zut one." I was like, "Oh man, why of all the videos I made, why the Al Zut video?" Oh boy, that's funny. Funny stuff, man. These are fun times, man. These are fun times. And speaking of fun times, ladies and gentlemen, we got Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad. I'm guessing he was on before me. He's one of the guys like me who's been on YouTube like a long time. And he was. I always thought he was an atheist. He says in the video we're about to watch, but I've noticed over the past couple of years he's been friendly towards Christianity. Like even on his show, when someone would start saying, "Hey, if the only thing they can save the UK is a return to Christianity and stuff like that," he wasn't denying it and so on, even though not a Christian. But anyway, then he was interviewed by Justin Brierley, and they just posted that, I think last night. And then I watched about the first 8 or 10 minutes or so, and he's not a Christian. But on the thumbnail, it said he started going to church. Said he started going to church. In the video, he says, in the interview, he says he's an agnostic, but apparently started going to church. So anyway, this is it's kind of a reflection of something that's going on all over the place. So for centuries, Christianity was like the dominant ideological force in the West, and then a bunch of people got the idea in the 20th century that they know better and they can do better, and hey, we can make a better world, and we got better ideologies out there and so on. And eventually you get to the new atheism when they took all the momentum of the 20th century and then said, let's go ahead and finish this. Let's finish it off. And they said, hey, if we could just get millions and millions of people to become atheists, the world will become better, more enlightened, more scientific, more logical, more rational, better in every way. It will be more moral. It's just better. It's better all around. Well, guess what? They were saying that in like 2001, 2002. We've had like 2.5 decades of the new atheism, and they did get millions of people declaring themselves atheists and so on. And what did this improve in any way? What did this make better in any way? In what way did Western civilization become more scientific? In what way did Western civilization become more rational? How many steps closer to a scientific utopia did we get by millions of people becoming atheists? That's the point. None of their predictions came true. None. And so if they've got a drop of empiricist blood running in their veins, they have to say, we thought this would lead to some improvement. It hasn't. Guess what? Our theory failed. Our worldview has had massive disconfirmation. Not in the sense that this wouldn't mean that it's false. It just means it doesn't work in the way you thought it would. Hey, if we get a bunch of converts to atheism, if we spread atheism, if we have a more aggressive form of atheism, the world will become better. The world will become better as Christianity declines. Guess what? The entire world started instantly going insane. You ended up with massive division in society. There was already divisions in society and so on. To kind of amplify them to where everyone clicked up into groups, everyone's attacking each other, and then people start civilization. It kind of paves the way for Islam. Here's the idea, ladies and gentlemen. Islam is relentless. It just keeps coming at you and coming at you, decade after decade, century after century. It has to be something strong that is going to stand against that. It has to be something strong that is going to stand its ground against that and repel it. Christians did it for 14 centuries. And then the moment people, hey, no, we got all these better alternatives and stuff, they can't invite Islam in fast enough. And so whatever you want to say, the alternatives that people came up with over the past couple of decades, they were completely, utterly, totally ineffective in dealing with Islam. And so you have a lot of people basically recognizing what they have. And so you've got people who are converting to Christianity, but you also have people who aren't converting to Christianity, but they're like, I understand we had something way better when Christianity was the dominant ideology in the West. So that's what's going on right now. And so Carl Benjamin, interesting. We're going to go through this. Again, I've seen about the first third of the interview. And it was also interesting because they were there with Bethel McGrew, she's the daughter of Tim and Lydia McGrew. If you put all of their IQs together, if you put all the IQs of the McGrew family together in degrees Celsius, it would melt a diamond. Let me just put it that way. It would melt a diamond. Smart family. We'll take these first batch of super chats, and we'll jump into the interview. I think we should be able to get through all of it. It's like 20 some minutes, so we should be able to watch all that. It was so funny. What was funny? I don't know what was so funny.
It was fun. It was funny. Thank you, Ida. It is funny.
Ida says it was funny. Let's see. Please get someone to sing these songs. Why? I thought it was the jam. You could get someone to sing these. I'm telling you, I want the rap. We've got tons of rappers on our side. We've got tons of retired.
You don't like my voice? I thought I was a good singer, man. What is this?
I've never heard you sing except for like pretending to sing while we're live.
Oh, that's true.
So I have to see. Hail our Lord Jesus Christ. Yes, indeed. Found out that hijabophobia is a thing. What are the relevant verses and hadith to respond to someone who claims the coverings are empowering? What do you mean? What do you mean? The Quran, I think it's Surah 33, verse 59, says, and I think
Muhammad hijabophobia.
I think it's the Yusuf Ali translation, but it says, make sure they cover themselves up so that they won't be molested. That's not empowering. That's saying, hey, you're basically asking to be molested if you don't cover yourself. And then, of course, you've got women in full burqas, and they go to the Hajj, and then what happens? They'll get molested. Isn't that weird?
Well, ain't that quite a paradox right there?
And AP, as far as people saying it's empowering, what was the historical background of why women needed to cover themselves according to Islam?
Well, they got molested by Muslim men. So
No. I mean, Muhammad's wives. What happened, man? What happened?
oh yeah, Muhammad's wives were. You mean they were going poop, and they were going to make it to the doo-doo business, and Muhammad's dear advisor Omar, he was looking at all the women walking by, and he would see Muhammad's wives go doo-doo, and he would say, "Hey,
he's sitting
hey,
there.
I see
He's
you. I
peep-
see
he's
you going to the
peeping at them.
bathroom.
He's
I see
peeping
you
at them.
going poop, and I like to look at the women when they go poop, and I don't want to look at the Prophet's wives. The Prophet's wives are important. Somebody has to tell the Prophet to cover up his wives because nobody should look at them. Nobody should peek at them when they go poo-poo." So that's how it happened, yeah.
And guys, it's fun. He's not joking. This is in the Muslim sources, right? So,
It's a serious business.
so okay, this is Umar, the second of the rightly guided caliphs. He liked to check out the area where women were going to use the bathroom. He liked to scope them out, apparently. And then he's like, "Ah, I saw one of your wives, and she's going there, so I'm relieving herself. But did you know that if she covered herself completely, I wouldn't even know that it's her." And Muhammad's like, "Oh, fine. Well, women all cover themselves, and that's why. That way, Umar won't know whose butt he's looking at when the women are going out
I like to
poop."
look at women go poop, and Muhammad's women are special. They shouldn't be looked at when they go poop.
This is Islam. This is so massively. I mean, seriously, if a dude like, keep in mind, guys, this is, it's weird because we have bathrooms in our houses and stuff now, so there's not need to go out there and But just imagine if you were back then. Some dude came up to me, he's like, "Hey, I was watching the area where the women go out to use the bathroom. I saw your wife." I would just freaking clock the dude right there. You just get all your teeth knocked out and be like, "You ain't going to be watching anyone now, are you? I don't need to cover up my wife. I just need to knock your freaking teeth out. That's it. Boom. Problem solved." But that's how it works. It's like, "Oh, look at all these perverts trying to check out the women while they're going poop. Let me tell the women to..." It's the women who always have to change and adapt to men being perverts, right? And then, of course, you get, again, Surah 33:59. The women have to cover themselves so that they won't be molested by people like Umar. "Oh, maybe I'll cop a feel while she's copping a squat."
Well, the thing is, it is in a man's nature to watch women go poop. So therefore, it would of course be required of the women to do something about that and to change their appearance, because every man just wants to go and watch women go poo like Umar. Yeah, that's what we all do.
Creepy stuff, man. Creepy stuff. Yep. Umar was standing behind the Diddy line. Muhammad said, "This is the Diddy line you can watch, but don't cross the Diddy line." First you converted Nabil, then AP, next Alex O'Connor. No, Dewa doesn't convert anybody. I'm just super based, that's all. I remember when CB was running for office and was talking to a young Christian. He was pretty cheeky. Oh, Carl Benjamin. I was like, "Who's CB?" Remember when Carl Benjamin was running for office and was talking to a young Christian? He was pretty cheeky. Glad to see him reconsider. Faith wave rolling. Yeah, he's actually funny.
I thought it was supposed to be Clinton Bill. Yeah.
I remember. I remember he went on this rant and he said there are only two types of people in the world: the English and the German. That was just hilarious to me. Anyway, the English and the German. Off topic, but is the Confederate battle flag based? No. Bunch of losers. You lost a war. Give it up.
But losers.
AP, I want to get
losers.
AP. I want to get baptized. Orthobros. No. What's TMB mean?
What's TMB? Where's
I don't know.
TMB?
It says TMB at the end of this thing. I understood everything right up until TMB.
TMB. I don't know.
Momo's favorite music is reggae. Reggae featuring all Zut and Diddy lines. Why is everyone talking about this all Zut stuff? Peak unemployment.
Yeah.
This better be on all the music apps. It needs to be.
That should
be everyone's ringtone as well.
I actually made a move today to put it on Spotify and all the other services. I think it should be out there within 1 to 3 days or so. So, starting music career.
As we you actually have enough for a full album based on the stuff.
Beast.
I made a video about how Islam isn't pure monotheism because the Quran is eternal with Allah, and a Muslim said that an attribute is not a distinct entity of Allah. How would you respond to this? Pretty easily. So the attribute, saying that the speech of Allah is an attribute, that is a common response. But it is a distinct book. It's a preserved tablet in heaven. So it is something that is distinct from Allah, and yet it's an attribute of Allah. So you've got an attribute of Allah that is distinct from Allah. But it gets worse. In the Hadith, the Quran appears as a pale man and intercedes for Muslims. So the Quran appears as a pale man and intercedes for Muslims and says, "Oh, Allah, this Muslim recited me a bunch. He recited me a bunch, and that's why you should forgive him." All right? Okay, so now here's something that is an attribute of Allah, speaking to Allah and interceding with other people for Allah. But it gets worse, because you've got the Hadith where individual chapters of the Quran appear as flocks of birds. Right? They appear as flocks of birds to intercede for Muslims. So think about this. You've got an attribute of Allah which appears as a man and intercedes with Allah, speaks to Allah, communicates with Allah. But within that pale man that is the Quran in his full appearance, you have individual chapters which appear as flocks of birds, and they also intercede. So within the one Quran pale man, you have all these other agents that speak, think, remember, intercede, and so on, and yet they can also appear as one man, which is an attribute of Allah. The point is, if you're going to make fun of the Trinity, because it sounds like polytheism. Oh my goodness, and this is I want to make a video about this or do a live stream. But if you saw the discussion with God Logic and Ali Dawah would complain. He's going, "Oh, look at that shape. Me just learning me shape, yeah. And look, I got a little square in it, and then I got the triangle, yo. And I noticed that the triangle ain't the same as the square. So how can you say that Jesus is God?" And then and then he would say, he would go on his little stupid shapes tirade, and he would see, this is why Tawheed. This is why people are turning to Tawheed. And God Logic would challenge him on Tawheed, and Ali Dawah would not answer the question. So this is an ongoing issue. They do not want to talk about Tawheed if they're talking to someone who knows about Tawheed, because someone who knows about Tawheed is just going to wreck them, because it's not simple. It's massively confusing. They can't even agree on whether Allah has literal body parts or not. So Allah has body parts, and then Allah, he breathes out the spirit. So the spirit of Allah is not like other things that Allah creates. When Allah creates, he just says be, and it pops into existence. There are 3 exceptions. So there's the spirit of Allah, which he breathes out. So that originates from within Allah. So that is not a normal creation of Allah. So the spirit he breathes out. You've got the Quran, which he speaks out. And then you've got Jesus, who Allah also speaks out. Jesus is the word of Allah. But Jesus also is a man. And so you've got a man who's the speech of Allah. This is really, really confusing when you look into it. And then his Quran, which he speaks out, his eternal speech, also appears as a man, and yet within this one man, there are all these flocks of birds that are also intercessors and so on. This is really, really confusing stuff. They don't talk. They'll talk about this with like students of knowledge, people who are becoming scholars and stuff. But to potential converts, they walk up and they go, "Oh, the Trinity is so confusing. Just convert to Islam. It's so simple. It's just one God, just one God." And they don't break down any of that confusing stuff, which is why when God Logic would bring it up to Ali Dawah would not answer, and he would change the subject. They are terrified of this issue. Guys, if you want to do something, first learn the Islamic dilemma. That's step 1. Step 2, learn to wreck Tawheed. Let's see, what do we got? The Al-Zut can help you with those high notes. It's extremely messed up. Hey, yeah, you should get Al-Zut to sing the chorus, but like actually get the Jot people. Jesus and Mo and the adulterous woman test. Mo, here's the Torah, God's law. Jesus, I make the lie, I'm God.
One God.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It's actually a good point right there. Modern atheism lacks belief. Peterson mirrors, modern atheism lacks belief. Okay, so the modern atheist version, they said, no, we're not saying there is no God. We're just saying we lack belief. Notice, following this definition, this cup is an atheist that lacks belief. Peterson mirrors this in reverse. He affirms Christian truth without belief, two sides of the same metaphysical caution. So they're saying we just lack belief in God, and Peterson he affirms Christian truth without belief, or without confirming that he actually believes it. Interesting. Although he has confirmed certain elements. What if D.L. Calby's middle name was Briel? Diha Briel al-Kalbi. Then Muhammad didn't lie when he said he was visited by... Gabriel. Hey, look. This message brought to you by Hijab's Mutawife.
37.
Hijab's Mutawife 37. He probably does have like 37 or more, 50 or 70. Probably changes them out and so on regularly. Probably has a nice little Mutawife in every town he goes to speak in. Bummer, AP. I'm not ortho, but I respect your demeanor and humility. Yes, he's already declared himself the most humble repeatedly.
Thank you. I am the most humble, so it's not very difficult for me. But thank you. Appreciate that.
AP, I take it since you're still a cat human, you lost the mubahala against the bishop.
Yes, I did.
Don't mess with don't do a mubahala with a bishop, man. They will wreck you. McMuta Oscar to D Wood and Reggae Rhythm by AP. Fun times. Yes, these are indeed fun times. Have you heard Love the Jews song by Apologetics? You heard that, AP?
No. I heard of Apologetics.
I'm going to screenshot this and check that out later. The biblical time frame, you're eligible to be baptized the moment you confess Jesus is Lord and believe he rose from the dead. Yeah, that's what AP and I have been talking about. That's the way it looks in the book of Acts. We kind of talked about that before, that it seems like the Orthodox Church has combined two things, because you also have Jesus talking about becoming a disciple and saying, make sure you know what you're getting into, in effect. If you're gonna do a construction project, make sure you have what it takes to complete it. If you're deciding whether you can go out with an army to confront another army, you need to make sure you can actually do that. So you do have these warnings and so on. Sounds like they combine them. But yeah, in the book of Acts, it was, you believe now? Let's get to Dunkin'.
Dunkin' Donuts. So here's the thing. Some people misunderstand what the whole, postponing baptism in the Orthodox Church and all that means. And some people say, how can you withhold baptism and all that? It's not withholding baptism. That's not really what this is about. So if I was, for example, on my deathbed right now, and there was a risk that I'm going to die within the next few days, in the Orthodox Church, it would be I would be baptized as soon as I confess that I believe, in Christian beliefs, that I believe that Jesus is Lord and he rose from the dead. As soon as I affirm the Nicene Creed, I would get baptized. And I think there is even in such a case permission for anyone to baptize you or something like that. The issue with the Orthodox Church is this was actually established by not just the Orthodox Church as we speak, as we say it, but rather by the universal church in general within the first centuries of Christianity, because there was a huge influx of new people into Christianity, because there were heresies that were coming about and really messing up the church. The system was established that if somebody wants to join the church and wants to, become representative of the church and wants to take communion in the church, then the presbyters, the priests, should make sure that every single person who comes into the church learns everything that we actually believe before they are then baptized into the church, and before they then are ready to take communion. If, however, the person is, for example, thought to be on their deathbed, it is they are baptized immediately, because then there is a sense of urgency. And the idea was then also if somebody is in the learning process and in the middle of that, for example, dies, the church doesn't consider that like condemned or anything, because obviously God is aware of everyone's intents and all that. So the person was obviously going to be baptized or willing to be baptized and so on. So this is just a system established to teach people what is actually what the church's beliefs are, and to prevent heresies from taking over, especially the early Christological heresies or general theological heresies. Later on, the early recommendations were even that people should be educated about this kind of stuff for 3 years or so. In modern times, it's like it's much less. Generally, people are baptized within like 1 year or less or more, but there are still some people who are not deemed really ready, and who are like taken through it again and again, and for whom it takes long. For some it takes much less. But yeah, so in the Orthodox Church, there has recently been in America this kind of surge in people who want to join. So measures have been taken to then say, okay, we have a popular surge of people trying to join, but people really need to learn what they join, and not just, we don't want it to become like a park, So they wanted to install, impose certain phases that are minimally required for everyone to be at least part of the church for 1 year before being fully accepted, and so on. So this is basically what it is. It's just about keeping Christianity pure and free from heretical movements and all that, and making people properly understand Christianity before putting them into it. It's not about withholding.
Yeah, it's weird, because here's the issue, right? It makes perfect sense to say, hey, you just got here, make sure you know what you're getting into, and make sure you're serious and seriously on board. And it's pretty good to have a little waiting period just to make sure you're not flip-flopping out there. That makes perfect sense. It's not what you see in Acts. It's not what you see in the book of Acts. So that's the weird part. But I don't know. It's a weird situation, because you don't want people just going in and saying, oh, okay, oh, this looks good, let me convert, right? You kind of like, dude, are you serious? Make sure you're serious, dude. So anyway, you know what it seems like? Keep in mind, Mike, I think that following the biblical pattern, that once you believe, you should be baptized and so on. But it is kind of a different situation there, right? I mean, you're going around, you've got the apostles preaching to you, and you're in a culture that is, I mean, especially if you're talking like Greek and Roman, it's like completely different. It's polytheistic and so on. So if you were going to convert, you were serious, right? That was a serious issue for you already. If you were going to convert in the first century and face persecution and so on, you were already committed. You had to be committed, like walking into it. The world isn't like that anymore. You don't have to be committed to, you can just walk in and say, okay, I believe this now, and then change your mind 5 minutes later and stuff. The point is, in the first century, I have to say it did make more sense in the first century, in the sense that given what you were going to face as a Christian, and, be kicked out of your family and face persecution and so on, it made sense. Okay, boom, you believe, so you're committed to this? Of course you're committed. Why would you be believing in something where you're going to be persecuted? So you're already committed. And you kind of lose that, and it's like, are you serious? So, in other words, we knew you were serious in the first century if you converted to Christianity. We knew you were serious. You were obviously serious. Here, you kind of don't. So anyway, I would certainly be inclined to favor the pattern in the book of Acts, but I can definitely see that we are in a different world compared to the first century. Let's see. Good night and God bless you both. Love you guys. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Speaking of songs, play Dilla Monkey and have a laugh. Are you familiar with that? Was that Jay Dyer? Was that?
I think it's Jay Dyer. I don't know.
I'll screenshot this. So check that out. I thought he was completely serious, and then you guys were saying he was funny, and then I realized he is kind of funny. I saw him impersonating Jordan Peterson, and then you guys are talking about stuff like Dilla Monkey and so on. So
It's because he has a very, very deadpan humor.
That is always hilarious.
It's very difficult to tell when he's joking sometimes.
David, now that you attend the Divine Liturgy, in the based Orthodox Church, what did you think of the based Orthodox Church service?
Well, that's a very good super chat. Whoever made that, wow.
Yeah. Well, it's all right, except for the taco stuff every 5 minutes.
That's the best part about it, man.
Matthew 6:5. Don't pray like them who want to be seen by others in the street. The true Injil. Don't pray like them who want to be seen by others in the street. The true Injil. Matt Hamoud 6:5. Work on your Zabiba to be seen by others. Yeah. Get that? So you got Matthew 6:5. Don't pray like those who want to be seen by others in the street. But the true Injil says, work on your Zabiba to be seen by others. Think about this, right? I mean, that is a serious issue. Jesus is all his warnings are about doing things to be seen by others. Why are these guys banging their heads on the floor? Look at me. Look at how big my Zabib is. I'm so righteous. Which would be one thing if they rejected Jesus. They claim to follow Jesus, and it's like Islam is like the opposite. If you took everything Jesus said not to do as part of your religion, Islam is like taking everything Jesus said not to do as part of your religion and rolling it up into a ball and then saying, we follow Jesus. Very stupid. Very stupid. Hey, David, say in your Sajid voice, ABC. It's not easy as 1, 2, 3. Yeah, because ABC would be 3 letters, and it would be a holy book then. Also, just wanted to say thank you for what you do. I will never get over that. Look, when you start reading the Quran, what do you see? Aleph, Lam, Mim. It has 3 letters. This tells you already that you're dealing with a book of God. It's like, what? That's the new argument? It's like, what? You guys went scientific miracles, perfect preservation. When all that failed, it's like, it's got 3 letters here. It must be from God. Wow. Makes a Bebo song to the tune of Beat It by MJ. Beat it, bang it. You could say, bang it.
It's a Biba.
Biba. No one wants to use a Biba. Anyway, Islam is one-of-a-kind religion. It is globalist, but not in the way Christianity is. It is inherently hostile, expansionist, but without anything of value to offer the world. Nihilistic death worship.
That's pretty rude.
He ain't lying. Ex-atheist to Catholic. 2 years ago, Carl helped me make the logical leap to understand God is a must to objectively ground morality. Weeks later, I had a radical encounter with Holy Spirit as I lay dying. Carl, as you lay dying? This was years ago? Carl would be shocked. That is cool that people can have an impact. I mean, like reading Plato's dialogues as an atheist had an important impact on me and stuff. So yeah, you can learn from people. From the people. D. Wood, based on your prison experiences in reading people, do you believe I think you mean Menendez brothers? Why or why not? I'm not buying it. Why not phone cops? I don't know. I've never followed it close enough. So guys, the Menendez brothers, they killed their parents, and then they said it was because of years of abuse and so on. I don't know. That could be true. And so the question is, why didn't you call the cops and so on? The idea is, okay, you killed your parents, so we're going to sentence you. If it was just cold-blooded murder because you wanted to take your parents' money and stuff like that, then that's one thing. If it was after years of abuse, yeah, you still did it. It was still wrong, but based on your motive, we will give you a different kind of sentence. But I haven't followed it closely enough to see what's going on here. The only reason I asked is because I found about World Hijab Day. Ah, yeah. I can't wrap my mind around dedicating a day to the garment that oppresses women. Keep in mind, you don't have to worry about that anyway. It was a thing like several years ago. Now it's just like a joke. Whenever it's World Hijab Day now, everyone just makes fun of it. D. Wood, in prison, did you meet Hell's Angels bikers? It's kind of the wrong part of the... I was at East Coast.
There are no bikes in prison. So.
Definitely guys who were obviously bikers. I don't think they were Hell's Angels. That would be more of a West Coast thing.
Okay, but there are no bikes in prison, though. So.
Yeah, that's true. I also use the Power Rangers assembling as a visual to show how individual chapters of the Quran come together to form one Quran. That's good. Yeah. We need 114 little little parts coming together like Voltron or Devastator or something like that. Guess you can say the bird is the word in Quran. Hey, we should make a bird of the word spoof, but based on that passage that the Quran chapters appear as flocks of birds, because now the birds are literally the word. That's funny. That's the only. That is. How did I not think of that? That is the only. The song is supposed to be stupid, but in Islam, it's actually true. The bird is a word. The bird is the word of Allah. About everybody's heard about the bird, about a bird, the bird of the word. It's actually a song. I have to check out the rest of the lyrics and see if they can, if they fit, or if we'll need to modify them. AP, unworthy of baptism. You didn't get rejected by God. FBI most wanted grape dangler. FBI most wanted grape dangler. AP, do you know Pixel Monk vid game by Trisagion Games? Warning involves Christ, Theotokos icons, and some ducklings. By the way, D. Wood ended up attending. Yeah, I went to the liturgy with AP and his family.
The liturgy. I saw your super chat earlier, so I actually checked it out. It seems to be an indie developed and fan-funded game. Pixel Monk, Trisagion Games, by an Orthodox Christian. Interesting stuff. Seems like a fun little chill game. I'm gonna check that out.
No one's interested in video games. AP, did you see Sadiq Khan, London mayor, has been knighted by King Charles? What is your reaction? Is this not haram? Why British monarchy flirt with Islam? Nope, hadn't seen that, but not surprising at all. Not surprising at all, but pretty messed up and creepy.
What the heck? Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, knighted at Buckingham Palace.
Should make a little video about that.
Sir Sadiq Khan formally receives his knighthood from King Charles. Can you imagine?
Yeah, for doing what? What the heck did that guy do besides help speed along the process of ruining London? You're so good at ruining London that we'll knight you. Birds, especially crows and ravens, were considered carriers of knowledge between humans and the afterlife and the gods in European paganism, just saying. Also in Arab paganism. Like with the story of the Satanic Verses is that Muhammad supposedly received revelations, it turned out to be from Satan, affirming that you could pray to your pagan goddesses because they're the exalted cranes. They're bird goddesses that carry your prayers up to Allah. And it's just, what's really interesting is, so keep in mind, that's the pagan mindset. Because they even had the idea of like a supreme god, and then there's all these other gods, right? And then Muhammad eventually delivers a revelation saying, yeah, you can pray directly to your pagan gods, and they'll just carry your prayers up to the main God, Allah. And so that's all fine. And then he says, no, Satan tricked me into saying that. But what's he say later? That chapters of the Quran are flocks of birds that intercede with you for Allah. So he kept it. He kept the paganism. He just replaced it with Islamic paganism. And isn't this just amazing? You say, hey, my Muslim friend, praying to Allat, Alusa, and Manat. Allat, Alusa, and Manat, interceding with God for you. Is that paganism? Yes, it's paganism. It's so pagan. It's as pagan as paganism can get. You say, okay. Chapters of the Quran interceding with you as birds. Is that paganism? No, it's pure monotheism. It's just weird.
I'm still stuck on the whole thing, man. This is so ridiculous.
What, a video game?
Imagine you have a politician in charge, elected by the Muslim population, to be in charge of your capital city, and that just completely defies and mocks and overturns anything traditional and English, British that you have. And basically hands your people over to get raped and stabbed and killed and exploded to bits and so on, and your king, who is supposed to be your leader of the nation, not only, by the way, the national leader, but also the head of the church, the head of the national church, actually gives that man such a high honorable title and knights him and turns him into a Sir Sadiq Khan. I don't know, man. There's just I can still, I can speak with respect still about every single European nation no matter how messed up they have become, like no matter what it is,
Even France?
maybe except Belgium, even France. With Belgium, I was like, okay, well, Belgium is barely a country, honestly. But so with all the countries, I still have some ounce of respect, but England just makes me sick.
It is. I have to say,
It just makes me totally sick.
I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, everyone who's watching out there, for you atheists and agnostics, things like this, I look at and I say, there has to be a spiritual realm here. Like you can't be that dumb. There has to be some spiritual element that is making you do this. It's like it's so obvious what you're doing. Like how can you possibly miss it? It's the same thing with like the grooming gangs, and so it's like you can't have devolved this far this quickly and not be some like spiritual force of evil working within you and working within your government and stuff. Really creepy stuff. But I mean, keep in mind that's the biblical view, right? There are spiritual forces at work in all of these things. D. Wood, were you recognized in the airport? You too, AP. What do you mean? Like just now? Like just when I was in the airport now? No. I have been recognized in airports probably a couple dozen times.
Yeah, maybe once or twice.
Yeah. It takes a real man to handle Al-Zut, and we're proud of ye. Mohammed. I caught my 7-year-old watching Ali Dawa vids on YouTube. In my defense, I thought he was watching a poor UK version of Mickey Mouse and Friends. Look, here are shapes, everyone. The Mahdi has dismantled the Islamic dilemma. That's good.
You see?
D. Wood, were A. Prophet Ling's, a.k.a. AP's kids scared of you? No, his kids are hilarious. His dog, for some reason, has memory problems. The dog would, I walk in, the dog would freak out and bark at me. And I would start playing with the dog and playing fetch with the dog. And then we'd be buddies and we'd be sitting there and petting him and stuff like that. Then we go record to come out, the dog acting like he doesn't know me. But it was like that every single day.
But he slowly got used to it, didn't
he? Yeah. Business idea, selling Muslim porta potties, mass buy niqabs and burqas and reselling them as Islamic-style porta potties might be popular at Palestine rallies. Yeah, porta potties. Got to use them. Baptism is just open confession of your faith. There it is. That is one view. Do you know Sabaton, the metal band that sings about historical wars? They made a song about the 6-Day War called Counter-Strike. It's fire. Not familiar with that. But AP will probably jam out to that.
I'll check it out.
As a Catholic, I pray for unity between Orthodox and Protestants. Glory to be Jesus Christ. Yes, Orthodox and Protestants, but not Catholics.
No, we don't want Protestants. We don't want... No, yeah, definitely.
Carl still doesn't believe in God. He thinks Christianity helps protect Western culture. Once the threats to it are gone, he'll go right back to attacking Christianity. Carl will always be a new atheist. I don't think so. I don't think so. As far as him, he's not exactly in the new atheist camp. But we'll see. We're going to watch it. Does Deuteronomy 21:10-13 set a sort of precedent with the principle of delayed baptism in the Orthodox Church, which ensures the person is serious about it? Oh, I don't know. If you're saying, is that the idea in the Orthodox Church? I have no idea what they're thinking. I don't know much about the Orthodox Church.
What are they thinking?
I've been to one liturgy, man. You act like we're experts in the Orthodox Church.
You're supposed to be an expert, man. No.
You're an expert. You're a perpetual cat human. How are you gonna speak on behalf of the church? They won't even baptize you. That could be the new insult for AP. You're not even fit to be baptized.
I found it very impressive. So when David attended to the Divine Liturgy in the Orthodox Church that I go to, I saw like he was getting very, very, very emotional and very overwhelmed as we were singing the songs, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to do this too." And so he was like very emotionally singing along, and also engaging in the prayers. He had tears in his eyes. and all that. It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
I just felt an overwhelming presence of love. I was in the presence of pure love. It felt like I was in a room filled with cotton balls of love. Nice. And I wept, sir. I wept. Huh. Pakistan government banned child marriage under 16. Islamic leaders declared it against Islam, complained that they weren't informed there would be a vote. Yeah, that is. I want to see how that plays out. But you do have all these situations where governments will make a law but never enforce them, because if you enforce them, then you run up against the religious leaders who will form a mob and take you out. So AP plus no baptism equals forever catahuman hybrid. That is true.
Based.
And this is from a man who's been an otter man his entire life. Sadiq knighted because of the PM political kickback. Is that true? What do you think? Is it because, hey, I want to win PM, you support me, and I'll get you knighted, isn't it? Could be.
I don't know. Sadiq Khan is knighted by the king despite Londoners' furious objections that he's being rewarded for failure. I don't know, people are very, very, very angry about it. Seem very, very angry about it. And he's just there posing with his knighthood thingy and his ridiculous smile. It's pretty bad. I don't know what's up. But one of the Daily Express, or which is now just called the Express actually, says Great Britain news star rages over Sadiq Khan's undeserved knighthood. It is sick. So I'm not the only person who thinks it's sick, I guess.
You're sick. Salt and Winger is my favorite bluebird chips. Does that make Winger the word?
Winger.
No, makes Winger a dork. The answer to the Islamic dilemma does exist. It's impossible existence. Yeah, keep in mind, according to Ali Dawah, impossible existence is a form of existence. So no more complaining about contradictions. Why did Muhammad cross the line? To get banged by El Zut. I'm Christian, married to an atheist. He has never read the Bible, but thinks he knows everything that's in it. Yeah, it's
in it.
That's an ongoing thing. You have all these atheists who think they know the Bible and don't know and have never read it. But then you have all these guys, all these people in the West, politicians, journalists who've never studied Islam, and yet they're experts in it, and they're qualified to say who is and who isn't a Muslim, so that when someone does something bad, they say, "Oh, that's not a Muslim. We know because we're experts." He says, my corrections are just my interpretation. I love this man and want him to know Christ. What can I do? Read Greg Koukl's Tactics. Read Greg Koukl's Tactics. And then after that, read Greg Koukl's Street Smarts. That will be enough to get some big zoot peanuts. Big zoot peanuts. And finally here, man children arguing over fairies. Grow up. man child shows up and says, man children arguing over fairies. Grow up. When were we arguing over fairies? What a dork. Thank you for the contribution. Imagine, look at these idiots arguing about religion. What are you doing? Arguing about religion, sitting here in the chat, arguing about religion. They don't even spot it, man. They can't even spot it. Can't even spot how silly they are. Anyway, fun times, man. All right, ready to check out Carl Benjamin here, man?
Of course, man. Of course.
All right, let's check out Sargon of Akkad.
Welcome back. I'm Justin Briley, bringing you some brief, mini, but fun conversations from the ARC conference here in London. Joined this time by both Bethel.
The ARC conference, just so everyone knows, that's the conference I was heading to when I was denied entry by the government of not-so-great Britain.
McGrew, but also Carl Benjamin, a.k.a.
And I was also supposed to be interviewed by Justin Briley. Never happened. Never happened. May never happen. I'm not allowed in the country.
What is it? Sargon of Akkad?
That's correct.
How long have you been doing that channel?
About 11 years now, something like that.
And for those who are a bit bemused and haven't heard of it, who is Sargon of Akkad?
Hey, AP.
What?
The reason I wanted to check this out after I started watching it is he sounds a little like you, and that he starts pointing out that for him it's not the arguments. The issue is not the arguments. That's how you are. Like, it's not the arguments. I don't care about arguments. Hey, I also have to say, little side note.
That's very based.
So everyone, Sargon, extremely well-spoken, well-read, well-studied. But he has the accent that I've mentioned, because I don't know how things sound to people in different parts of the world. I'm an American. There's a certain British accent that makes whatever you say sound extremely intelligent. And there's a British accent that makes everything you say sound like, it's coming from a complete idiot. So that's like Russell Brand's accent, whatever accent Ali Dawah has, that is like the dumbest sounding accent. Hey, what the heck, man? Why does he keep doing this?
The heck is happening?
Whatever accent Ali Dawah has makes him sound like a complete, utter, total moron. But Carl Benjamin, Richard Dawkins, who else? Douglas Murray. They all have the accent that makes whatever you say, even if you were saying something completely stupid, it makes it sound very intelligent. And if you have the Ali Dawah accent, then you could be saying something that is the most brilliant thing ever. It's not going to happen. But you could be saying the most brilliant, clever thing ever, and you would sound like a complete idiot to an American. I have to say, Carl Benjamin, he has like the supreme example of the intelligent sounding accent to Americans. So whatever he says here, guys, you have to listen to it because of his accent.
I think that is called the received pronunciation, or the high received pronunciation.
I heard it called posh.
Or upper received. Yeah, I think it's just received pronunciation.
Posh.
Or Oxford or Queens.
Posh.
Yeah,
it's Poshford. Got it?
I'm quite old, and in the early days of the internet, it was a wild west. It was scary, and it was generally understood that you didn't use your real name for anything, and so you would use a pseudonym. And I happen to be a history fan. I happen to enjoy historical figures and stories, and so I just used Sargon of Akkad as my sort of screen name because everyone had their own, and you end up taking it from platform to platform just so you don't have to remember a different login and a different password. And so when I signed up to YouTube, it was just no different. I just was like, okay, I was, didn't think anything of it. I never thought I was ever going to produce a YouTube video. Then something like 3 years later, I was just a bit frustrated about things. So I recorded a very, very low quality video, put it up online, and I started getting views. And then suddenly I've got 500,000 subscribers, and then suddenly I've got 900,000 subscribers, and suddenly I'm in the news, and suddenly I'm like, why didn't I just use my real name? Because the thing is, the political space wasn't really there on YouTube when I started.
It was a fast-moving, evolving thing, and you caught the wind of, this developing moment.
By complete accident.
Yeah, to my mind as well, in those early years of YouTube, it was actually quite a kind of atheisty dominated space. That was where a lot of the new atheists discovered each other and started hosting these quite skeptical channels. Was that kind of the vibe?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Someone made this point recently. They were playing clips from like 2009, 2010 of atheists back then, and they're just bragging about how they've taken over the internet and they've taken over social media and they've taken over YouTube, and Christians are all running, and people are just like, how's that working out for you guys now? How's that working out? But yeah, it did seem to be the vibe generally seemed to be atheism seemed significantly like a much stronger force back in like 2008, 2009, 2010 on YouTube. Now, what a pathetic, weak little insignificant thing it is.
Well, you know what I find kind of interesting? You probably don't know this, but Justin Briley, his voice sounds like a narrator of a different YouTube channel that I know, which is Kings and Generals. The narrator of that YouTube channel sounds exactly like him, and now I'm like wondering if they are the same person.
Oh. Does he show himself, or it's just his voice?
Just voice.
I'll check it out. You don't know anything.
Probably not the same person, but whatever. Continue.
You're just saying all British people sound alike. It's not.
They
true.
all look the same.
It's not true. They look alike. They talk alike. They're all the same.
The time of your channel?
It wasn't the vibe of my channel. I just presupposed all of those things, really. I was a fan of Chris Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and things like that. And I had never, I didn't come from a religious background in any way.
You weren't kicking against anything in that?
No. So
here's what it sounds like, and we'll let him continue. But it sounds like he's a fan of all these guys and he just agrees with them. So he wasn't like aggressively going, promoting the new atheist stuff because he's just okay. It's obviously. So you don't need to fight over it.
While I agreed with all of the sort of materialistic atheist arguments they were making, I was just a product of late modernity. And so everyone has those sort of presuppositions baked into them and they realize that I'm not.
You ended up kind of becoming, though, somewhat part of that milieu. And I remember there was some kind of an episode, and I wrote a book called The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God, where I sort of the first chapter traces the rise and fall, arguably, of new atheism. And the way in which that movement, after a sort of honeymoon period, when everyone said, yes, God doesn't exist and religion's bad for you, they then started to disagree over all kinds of social issues. And I remember one particular moment that I heard about and watched when you had a big kind of fallout with another atheist at the, what was it, the Mythicist convention or something?
Yeah, the Mythicist Milwaukee convention. Well, so the atheist movement had...
Wait, mythicist? Jesus mythicists?
What?
There was a convention of... Cause I don't know what you mean by mythicist, because you can be a mythicist about various things. If there was an entire conference for Jesus mythicists, that's like terrible. But it's weird. I remember vaguely hearing something about this, but I don't think I ever watched the footage. But I think he says someone stormed the stage getting ticked off at him. Well, let's see.
Wait a minute. Mythicist Milwaukee is the former name of a non-profit atheist secular organization founded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin by Sean Frasick and Antonio Fritz Blandon in January 2013. Wait for it. After viewing the film Zeitgeist, the movie, directed by Peter Joseph, which claimed that today's Western religions are derived from ancient sun and nature worshippers. Seriously, man?
It's like... Again, this is we've pointed this out a million times, but it's like you'll get these guys, we're the champions of reason and we're the champions of logic and we're the champions of facts and we only believe what's been proven, and then they'll run out and defend like the most idiot, and they'll just mindlessly go along with something they saw in a stupid video and be ready to defend that to the death. And it's like they've never thought through anything, they've never studied anything. It's like, gosh, it's so dumb.
That movie, that film, the Zeitgeist movie was like, it came in at a time where the internet was just getting started on a massive scale, and the people were very susceptible to just accepting any kind of nonsense that is online. So the film came out and started making a bunch of ridiculous, dumb claims, and people just absorbed all of them like sponges and believed it. And nowadays, everyone who knows a little bit of stuff knows that the whole film was just full of nonsensical propaganda nonsense. It was just nonsensical nonsense. But some people actually formed organizations based on that movie. So.
Yeah, there's that, and then you had the Jesus myth, or that Jesus never existed. It's like, I'm not your boss. I can't tell you, I can't make you not believe in something stupid. It's the fact that they will believe the stupidest things that are like a trillion miles. They would be laughed out of the room if they tried bringing this up among scholars. I mean, even atheist scholars. They would laugh you out of the room for holding to these positions. And yet these guys will claim to be the champions of facts and reason. This brain is Fort Knox. Nothing is in there except the pure gold of the truth. And they'll, like any idiot who says, Jesus never exists, they go, oh, you can't believe that. Gosh, so dumb. Anyway, so something happened. And someone stormed the stage, apparently, ticked off at him. Let me back this up a few seconds because this is interesting.
Atheist at the... what was it, the Mythicist convention or something?
Yeah, the Mythicist Milwaukee convention. Well, so the atheist movement had, not very long after its sort of blooming, been infected with woke postmodern identity politics, in particular feminism. And I didn't think this was actually the best way to conceive of male-female relationships and interactions. And so I was something of a heretic to the atheist
You
movement,
catch that?
which is an interesting place to arrive at because, of course, there were definitely deep religious undertones to the moral system that they're promoting.
Dude, you hear this?
No.
AP. This is exactly what Jordan Peterson was just saying. And yet you had people like Danny going, oh, well, are you a Christian or not? So the actual claim of Jordan Peterson was everyone worships something. And if you take God out of your mental hierarchy and so on, something else is going to be on top. Something else is going to be on top. It's like, no, we don't. And here's Carl Benjamin saying that the whole movement had these religious undertones, and if you didn't agree to everything that the group was saying, you were deemed a heretic. You're a kind of heretic and so on. So check this out. Let's back this up a little bit. He was a heretic.
In particular, feminism. And I didn't think this was actually the best way to conceive of male-female relationships and interactions. And so I was something of a heretic to the atheist movement, which is an interesting place to arrive at because, of course, there were definitely deep religious undertones to the moral system that they're promoting. And the Mythicist Conference was a confrontation, finally, whose time had come, because for a long time, they simply just blocked us out of conversation because, of course, well, no, we've got the reins of power. Why would we want to engage with you? We'd only stand to lose something. But our influence kept growing. And so eventually it came to the point where I was like, okay, well, we'll sit down and talk. And Thomas Smith was not happy that I wasn't prepared to be browbeaten by progressive.
This was the sort of opponent you were speaking to.
That's correct. Right. And he ended up storming off the stage.
Yes, there were some quite chaotic scenes I heard.
Yeah, I didn't think I even went that hard on him, really. But I just didn't agree with the moral framework he was proposing. And he had a really difficult time dealing with that. Yeah. So,
hey, that's interesting. Hey, AP, a little side note, AP. Guys, everyone look, is it just me or does that actually look like a cool way to rock a cross?
I know, I was just thinking of that. I thought I should attach it to my beard.
Isn't that cool? It looks cooler than wearing it as a necklace.
Yeah.
You should come up with something where you don't actually have a necklace. It just like attaches to your beard or something like that. Dude, seriously, start up a new thing.
Yeah.
Start up a new thing. It looks cooler, and that could be your offshoot of the Orthodox Church that you start and become the Pope of.
Well, I already started. I'm starting a movement called Orthofarianism. So it also comes with Orthodox Christian reggae music. So yeah,
that is cool. That is cool.
You make now in retrospect of that whole sort of new atheist movement.
They didn't kill belief in Christianity. They buried it. They were essentially kicking an open door.
You guys get that? Kicking an open door? What's he mean? They didn't kill belief in Christianity. They buried it. So the killing was already done. So in other words, other people just culturally, especially in the UK, people stopped taking Christianity seriously. Tons of people did. And the new atheists just came along and kind of took advantage of the situation. That's what it sounds like he's saying. That they're kicking an open door. The door's already open there. It's already been done. It's already been done. And they're like, oh, we will stop Christianity when it was kind of already done.
It was an unusually long break that he just took there when he was asked the question.
Why can't you let the man think about how to state whatever he's trying to say?
We don't do thinking.
I mean, you remember when I ordered the McMutta. When I ordered the McMutta at McDonald's, the dude paused for like 30 seconds.
That's true.
He's trying to get the right response. What's the problem?
The awkward silence there.
Yeah, it was. I thought about just leaving it as this awkward silence, but I put something on the screen because it's like 30 seconds to pause. And it's funny when I'm sitting there because I'm like, should I say something? Should I clarify? It's like, no, I'm just going to sit here until he says something. So I just sit there. Classic.
The civilization had long become secular, and since the boomers, really, the boomers were genuinely quite a secular generation. And just found themselves choosing not to believe for whatever reason. And so by the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, when you had Hitchens and Dawkins and Sam Harris and Dennett having arguments with the religious right, they had a kind of rootedness that the religious right didn't have in the popular culture. And so they could draw upon a set of everyone knows this sort of assumptions. And so, and even now though, I look back and I think, God, their arguments were terrible. Absolutely. I mean, I saw a clip of Sam Harris just from about a year or two ago saying, well, I look up into the heavens and I don't see God, so where is he? And it's like, Sam, after all of this time, how have you not realized that the concept of God is outside of the material universe? Like, I'm an atheist, but your argument is just bad, right? And you fail to understand. But how did the
That's funny because you had the same reaction among like actual atheist and agnostic philosophers who were saying back then, like, guys, these are the stupidest the arguments of the new atheists, the champions of the new atheism are the stupidest arguments we've ever seen. It's embarrassing how stupid they are. And yet at the popular level, people were eating them up. Michael Ruse said, and that is an extreme, that I think he died. Did Michael Ruse die? Hang on one second. I'm friends with the last graduate student he ever took.
You don't even know if your friend died or not.
Michael Ruse, not my friend. Oh yeah. He died last year. He died November of last year.
Hey, is your friend dead? I don't know. But
insanely intelligent dude, Michael Ruse. It's funny. My friend said that in his classes, Michael Ruse was I forget if he called himself an atheist or an agnostic. But my friend said that he would teach his classes and he would tell the students, he said, hey, a lot of you are atheists and you look back and you think that you're so much smarter than people in the past. And you would look back at people like Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and think, look at these idiots. They believed all this stuff. He goes, none of you is even close. You're not in the same realm with these guys intellectually. These guys would run circles around any of you in a heartbeat. You have no idea how smart these guys were. So anyway, it was actually cool that this was coming from an atheist. But anyway, he said that reading The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins made him embarrassed to be an atheist because of how terrible the arguments were. But it's all the same thing. It's like even like very well educated atheists can see how stupid these arguments are. And yet at the popular level, you'll have all these atheists running around claiming these things, and they think that they're the smart ones when they're believing some of the dumbest arguments ever offered by anyone in the history of forever. It's amazing stuff. And here, it's why it's interesting. Carl Benjamin, he's like, I'm looking at your argument. Your argument is stupid. Like, anyway. Fun times. Glad we're getting past the new atheism.
Just right at the time, let him get away with these arguments.
Well, I think there were some people trying not to let him get away with it.
Wait, hang on. Someone's saying, why isn't someone shut down? Any of your mods here, can you shut this spammer atheist Jake Green? Who's Jake Green? I don't even know what he said. But he's annoying everyone.
Shut him down right now.
Huh?
I'm gonna shut him down right now.
Oh, he's just spamming theists on their fantasy. Oh yeah. Is he the guy that left a super chat with a super?
Can you imagine being a corny, cringe online atheist, who still refers to people as theist? Oh, theist, theist.
But it's funny because we're sitting here talking about how stupid these guys are. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about atheists. There are atheists who are complete geniuses. There are very, very smart atheists. I'm talking about the online guys who bought into the idea that, as long as I go around saying Sky Daddy, then me part of the smart group. Okay, if you fell for that, you're a moron. You're a complete, utter, total moron. And you've got these guys, and they're still doing it. It's like, dude, what are you typing this comment from 10 years ago when this was still a thing? Read the room, dude. Read the room. You sound like idiots. You guys sound like idiots. Anyway.
They're so ignorant.
Did you take care of that situation, AP?
I did.
That's what you get. And recognize atheists and their delusions. Thank you, Mixer.
Recognize the power of the moderator.
But sometimes it's the person with the loudest megaphone that you tends to.
Just think, as an atheist, I'm kind of embarrassed by it.
I want to bring in Bethel in a moment as my resident Christian.
AP, you like chess. Why don't you play Bethel and see what happens to you?
Okay.
I bet she will absolutely destroy and humiliate you. Sending you back, you'll be like, I'm going back to Turkey because she just destroyed me in chess.
Right.
Have a little bit of an engagement on these issues, but I do.
If I recall correctly, she's one of the people who can play you without a chessboard in front of her. You hear me?
That's fine. Yeah.
She doesn't need to see the board. You can just call out your moves to her. You can say, King's Pawn to blah, 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 blah. And she can just visualize everything in her head and play you just in her head. It's weird.
Before we do get to that, Carl, even though you are still an atheist, I sense that you've undergone a sort of conversion to arguably the value of Christian faith we hear at ARC, which is very much based around this idea of rediscovering the Christian foundations of the West and so on. And perhaps the bigger, most influential in that has been someone like Jordan Peterson in your experience. So I'd just be interested in hearing what that journey has been for you, even though you don't accept the supernatural claims, where you've landed regarding religion.
I'm not. I suppose I would put myself in the agnostic camp at this point, rather than a hard atheist, because there are arguments.
Imagine going from atheist to agnostic.
It's pretty lame.
Huh. Never heard that one before on someone's journey.
Who does that?
Yeah, who does that?
Religious, and not just Christian either, the religious side makes, that do necessitate an answer. Like, fundamentally, the materialist conception is based on something coming out of nothing, which is a very difficult thing to square for anyone who's concerned about logical consistency on how they feel the universe was created. So
I actually want to go back because he just made an important point there, which is it's refreshing to see it coming from, in this case, an agnostic, going from atheism to agnosticism. What he just said there, you've got all these guys who will say, we're the skeptics. Again, these are the same people who will believe any idiotic nonsense they saw in a video somewhere or in a documentary. Oh, what I thought in Zeitgeist, it must be the truth. Or how could it be in a video? Right? But they're the skeptics, and just claiming to be the skeptics, when you see they are completely gullible whenever anyone on their side tells them something, and then they're dogmatically opposed to anything supernatural, and they think this makes them a skeptic. It's like, no, if you're really a skeptic, you should be a skeptic of any sort of claim that seems really, really far-fetched. But guess what? That would include some atheistic explanations for lots of things. So how we got a universe, why the universe ended up finely tuned, how life originated. Keep in mind, guys, saw an interview with Richard Dawkins on Piers Morgan, and Richard Dawkins says, we may eventually find out how life formed. It's like, wait a minute. When I was in high school, you guys told me you had this stuff figured out. And now here we are decades later, and it's, well, we may eventually know and understand how life forms. It's like, okay, so you don't know. And that's not the biggest problem in the world, but it means you should be open to being wrong. If you have no clue, if in spite of all your research, you still can't figure it out, and you have no explanation, you should be open to the idea about being wrong about things, but they'll just take it for granted. Nope, this is how it happened. It must have happened. It must have just happened by chance and so on. So anyway, formation of life, consciousness, and so on. If you're actually a skeptic and you want to be skeptical of the theistic explanations, fine, but you should also be skeptical when they say, yeah, just matter and motion can give rise to human consciousness, or, time and chance and enough particles interacting with each other and you can get light. You should be skeptical of those kinds of things too. And people just aren't. So what he just said right there, that the reason he considers himself an agnostic and not a hard atheist is because atheists still have some serious issues to deal with, like how do you get a universe from nothing and so on. Anyway, so that's good. That's consistency, and he calls out the issue specifically in terms of consistency. So check this out.
Necessitate an answer. Like, fundamentally,
Let me back up a little.
There are arguments that the religious, and not just Christian either, the religious side makes, that do necessitate an answer. Like, fundamentally, the materialist conception is based on something coming out of nothing, which is a very difficult thing to square for anyone who's concerned about logical consistency on how they feel the universe was created. So the question of the Big Bang and all that, it just kicks the can further down the road. Okay, well, what came before that? Started that? What's going on? So there are lots of things. It's not Jordan Peterson for me, actually, who, but I appreciate for a lot of people, he has been instrumental to the lens. That's good. Because I actually do think a revival of the Christian heritage of the left is a good idea. The problem is, I think that it's kind of like asking a bunch of disabled people to just stand up and start walking.
You guys catch that? He said he thinks that a Christian revival is a good thing. And he said, but it's kind of like telling a bunch of people who've never walked or disabled to get up and walk. It's like how do you jumpstart your brain into thinking in Christian terms after you spent your entire life not thinking that way or thinking that that way is stupid? It's an interesting little problem.
If you haven't nurtured that part of you, I think it kind of shrivels up and dies. And so this is why it's. I'm not adverse to the idea of a religious awakening. I just don't feel with it, right? But for me, it was actually. I don't want to be cliche about this, but I really liked C.S. Lewis. Actually, I read Chesterton and found him a bit of a bore. Actually,
oh my goodness!
Chesterton's a very strange figure because about half of what he says in his books and what I read is. I'm like, God, that is a profound insight. And then about the other half, it's just like, that's obvious nonsense. It's obvious nonsense.
So he's saying he loves C.S. Lewis with Chesterton. He's saying half of it he reads and thinks, brilliant, profound insight. And the other half, come on, that's nonsense. I have a similar reaction to Chesterton in that he's so good at showing how he can make it reminds me of what I just said about the British, the posh British accent, and that Chesterton, but he'll just say it like in writing, not with an accent, but he can make anything sound brilliant, even if he was saying something that's not. And the other issue with Chesterton, sometimes I'll read Chesterton and he'll spend like 3 pages making a point, and I'll be like, you could have said that in 2 sentences, but you dressed it up in all this, awesome rhetoric and so on. But yeah, there is a difference between Chesterton and C.S. Lewis. And so, I don't know. I like Chesterton. All right.
And I like the sort of stuffiness of Chesterton. Like, so as an aesthetic, I like that. But C.S. Lewis is the guy.
Yeah. So, C.S. Lewis famously said, a young atheist can never be too careful about his reading. So it's fun to hear that you're...
Yeah. I like I said, I didn't want to be too cliche about it, but he makes some perceptive insights that are actually important.
Well, I'd like to return to some of those perceptive insights. Bethel, thank you for taking the chair again to sort of be the foil to what Carl is talking about here.
Now
Any
Carl
thoughts
will
on,
be humiliated.
From where you're standing, the journey that Carl has described, are you seeing that other people going on a similar journey in any way?
Yeah, for sure. But if I could just kind of riff on, because, he had so many interesting things to say there. I wrote a piece last year called Richard Dawkins Didn't Do It. It's kind of the same idea that you were getting at there, that they didn't really kill Christianity, they buried it. So where I come from in the States, the Episcopalian denomination used to be kind of like America's established church. We never had an official established church, but it's like the unofficial established church. But then the main line grew old and declined and died. And that was all happening through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s already. And so that's, I think, what Carl is getting at, the kicking an open door. That's what happened in the United States as well. And you still, of course, did have a religious right. There was that kind of resurgence in the 80s. But I think there was just a lot of silly paranoia around this idea of, oh no, that we're going to have like a Christianism and they're going to rise up and take over. They really weren't. They were the minority. Everybody made fun of them. And so, for Hitchens and Dawkins and those guys to sort of go after the fundamentalists, it wasn't really very brave. It was like picking the already picked on kid in the class, The other thing.
Since some of you are young and don't remember this, that was sort of the driving force behind the early new atheism. It's right after 9/11. Look at what religion does. Religion does 9/11. And if we don't stop, Christians are going to rise up. They're going to take over America and go on a killing spree of atheists. I'm not joking. They're gonna go around Christians are gonna take over the government. They're gonna go around persecuting atheists unless we stop them right now by getting millions and millions of people to become atheists and so on. So yep, they induced a kind of panic. We have to stop religious people from taking over, or everything will be just like 9/11.
And I would say it's funny that they called themselves the new atheists, because nothing that they said was new. It was all just it rewarned David Hume.
Oh yeah, their ideas were not new. It was kind of their level of aggression was new. They said, "Hey, we got a lot of momentum. Let's take it home and destroy religion."
And David Strauss and
Well,
I remember there was a stupid meme going around, still does occasionally, which says, "Imagine no religion," and then with a photo of the Twin Towers. And whenever I saw it, I would just want to like strike that out and say no Islam, because it's like this is like a dumb perception of oh, it's religion. It's not religion. It's not religion.
yeah, it's like saying imagine no people. Right? Because look, but it was people who did it. So if we just got rid of people, or AP could put it, imagine no planes, no planes, and no one could. Or imagine no buildings. You see, then if there were no buildings, then this wouldn't have happened. Imagine no buildings. Ding 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 ding. Not easy to fly.
all this kind of 19th century, and then going back to just the presumption that miracles do not happen. I guess that's Matthew Arnold, right? And so I would say the same thing about the quote-unquote new atheists that I would say about those old atheists, which is that they won the PR war, but they lost the argument. I don't think the arguments were ever really any good.
Nope,
and there were people who wrote against David Hume. There were scholars who wrote against Strauss. And it's just unfortunate that many of them, they're pretty obscure. We don't really know what their names are.
Okay, so Hume's Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. His essay against miracles, stupid, 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 stupid argument. And I'm saying that as someone who is a fan of Hume. When I say I'm a fan, I don't mean I agree with all of it. I mean, I reject a ton. It's like I'm a fan of Plato. I reject a ton of what Plato said. But his argument actually won in the sense that it just became a dominant way of thinking. And it was stupid. And people ignored the people who responded to it and showed how stupid it was.
A couple of people might vaguely know who William Paley is because of the watch thing, right? But by and large, we've sort of forgotten who those people are. So, a lot of my family's project, a lot of what my father works on and his kind of resourcement, is trying to kind of revive the memory, sort of raise the dead, in a sense, and reclaim the forward position, in a sense, and maybe now that new atheism doesn't even have the cultural clout that it used to, maybe now is a good vulnerable moment to strike.
I suppose one of the things that's become clear to me is that they're just the story that the new atheists told just didn't have the power to actually move people, and
it didn't tell a story.
It didn't tell a story. There was a kind of a non-story at one level.
The story was there is no story. People couldn't live with that. So yeah,
and so you have people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali going on this journey, to Christian faith and so on. I guess, I'm kind of, you're obviously, you can see the value, you can see sort of, but you're not convinced at a personal level, obviously, by this stuff.
It's not about rational argumentation. That's the thing.
That sounds like you, AP. Said it's not about rational argumentation. Let me back up a few seconds.
Kind of, you're obviously, you can see the value, you can see sort of, but you're not convinced at a personal level, obviously, by this stuff.
It's not about rational argumentation. That's the thing. It's about the feeling of spirit inside you.
Okay. So do you think that the kind of apologetics that, to some extent, Bethel represents, there is, I guess, I'm kind of, You're obviously, you can
spirit
see
of
the
it.
value, you can see sort of, but you're not convinced at a personal level, obviously, by this stuff.
It's not about rational argumentation. That's the thing. It's about the feeling of spirit inside you.
Okay.
The feeling
So
of
do you
spirit
think that
inside
the
you.
kind of apologetics that to some extent Bethel represents, there is a kind of objective evidence for, the historicity of scripture and there are good philosophical arguments of God, that's not going to move you?
No, and I think that you're actually playing on the enemy's turf too much with those sorts of arguments. Not to like I think that what you have to do is have a narrative that's so persuasive and so compelling, and something that is heroic to people that they can't help but feel enchanted by it, because the point of it is trying to bring magic back to the world, and so I'm a very big fan of mythology generally, and it's the enchanting nature of it. Like, I don't care if Beowulf was a real person or not. The stories and the heroism matter, regardless. And so the arguing scientific evidence of the Bible is kind of basically allowing the opponent to have a chance at winning, and they can't win on the narrative side. So
you're more likely to be persuaded by Tolkien than William Lane Craig.
Far more, yeah. And
that's interesting stuff, right? He says when you're trying to make an argument, then you're putting the other person, the atheist, in a position to respond to your argument and play skeptic and things like that, and argue, make a response to your argument and reject it and so on, when they've got nothing. Saying, hey, we've got this awesome story in Christianity that's compelling, and the alternative is the atheist got nothing. And he's saying, he sounds like he's saying, you should focus on that. You should focus on that. They've got nothing, and you've got this compelling story, this compelling narrative. He says, and when you say, let's argue about, some scientific argument or Kalam cosmological argument or something like that. It's like now you're in a position where you're losing track of what is most important in this entire discussion. I'm saying that as someone who is more interested in the arguments, but I'm pointing out because that's not the same thing you were saying, AP, but it's kind of in the ballpark of what you were saying, as far as it's not these arguments that are compelling to you.
Well, here's the thing. There is a side of it which he kind of also hints at, which I agree with, and which I thought for quite a while now. He said something about enemy's territory, and I have thought for the longest time, and I'm not sure how to really express this, because I see the value of lots of people trying to make logical arguments for God, for the existence of God, for theism and all that. But I feel like, so to me, as I look, even as an atheist, or even as an agnostic, as I looked at discussions that revolve around arguments for the existence of God, it seems to me like these are discussions that the Christian side very much has, because they are giving into what the atheists or what the skeptics actually want to talk about. So they just they give in to them and basically give them stuff for free. So I maybe this is just because I personally feel unconvinced or personally unmoved by arguments for the existence of God or against the existence of God. I think they don't really do anything for me, but I also don't really feel like I don't think that they have. So comparing the benefit that such discussions have for atheism or skepticism, compared to the benefit they have to Christianity, I would think it might not necessarily be very, very wise to greatly engage in debates about the existence of God simply on a logical basis. But this is just my opinion, and it might just be a very stupid opinion, I don't know. But this is simply this is how I feel about it. This is what I have seen so far about it. I think that that religious conversation should revolve more around actual human experience, actual human emotion, And people nowadays also mistakenly do this whole thing like, oh, so you're arguing from emotion. Yes, I am arguing from emotion. I am freaking arguing from emotion. Emotion is the most real thing that humans can feel, except David Wood. So, I
Did you think you were going to get a reaction out of me after saying I have no emotion?
Sorry, I had to say that. I would say that emotion is a very raw and very real thing, and it definitely has an impact on how human perceive and how human feel things. And I think with all the dry discussions about the existence of God and all of that, it was not all of that brought me back to believing, or brought me to believing. I don't really want to say back. I just want to say to believing. That brought me to believing. It was more the whole getting in touch with the actual human condition, the human emotion, the truth of the narrative of Jesus, the death and resurrection, of what he signifies, what he is to us, and so on. It wasn't really the logical arguments, and yeah, I still don't know if this could be put as a general perspective or as a general rule, or if this is just something that is just more about people like me or Carl Benjamin.
Yeah, I think for me, that's the issue, because with me, I look at the arguments, and even if the argument doesn't force you to agree, it's like looking at it and say, okay, what's the best explanation here? Okay, a universe pops into existence, and you take something like the Kalam cosmological argument. So, as William Lane Craig, he puts it, he says, everything that begins to exist must have a cause. That's premise one. Premise two, the universe began to exist. So, I mean, think about that. That's pretty, anything that begins to exist must have a cause. Okay, the universe began to exist. Those shouldn't be terribly controversial. Guess what? You can deny that if you want. You can deny premise one without much of a problem. And you can deny premises in all of these arguments if you want to. For me, it's just like, okay, what's the best explanation here? If something begins to exist is the best explanation. So not can you deny it? Can you fantasize about some alternative? Is the best explanation of something coming to exist that it had a cause? Yes, obviously. Okay, did the universe begin to exist? Yes, obviously. So does the conclusion follow that the universe has a cause? Yes. And then what's the best explanation for what the cause of the universe would be like, and so on? For me, it's kind of like that. It's not that it's forcing you to agree with the argument or something like that. It's like, I mean, seriously, dude? And when you look at all the arguments, the fine-tuning. So can you say it's just luck? Yes, you can. Is that the best explanation for how you got here? So I'm looking at it's like, okay, God is the best explanation for the way things are. When you factor in like Jesus and everything else, it's the Christian view is the best explanation for the way things are. Can you deny it? Yes. Can you reject it? Yeah, of course you can. Can you reject all the arguments? Absolutely you can. But the best explanation. So anyway, but that's the problem for me is, okay, there are people who kind of think like me. And the mistake is when you're talking to someone who isn't primarily concerned about the arguments at all, and then you say, I'm going to give you all these arguments. Like, it wouldn't even have to be someone who's thinking like AP and Carl Benjamin here. It could be someone who they had a really bad experience. Let's suppose someone was like abused in church when they were growing up, and then they become an atheist. You say, let me give you all these arguments. Well, that's not the issue for them, right? That's not. They were hurt. They were psychologically hurt and traumatized in church, and that gave them a massively negative view. And you're sitting here, but look at I've got the Kalam cosmological argument. Okay, you're not dealing with the person's issue. So we're talking about human beings here, and human beings can have a bunch of different reasons and a bunch of different ways of thinking. And the mistake is, here's how I think, therefore you must think like this as well. And this is what is compelling to me, therefore this is what must be compelling to you. We talked about this recently in the terms of, even for people who are persuaded by the arguments, you'll have people who are persuaded by completely different arguments. Like you'll have people who are persuaded by arguments for a belief in God, but they think the design argument is stupid. Or people who think the design argument is an awesome argument who think that other arguments are stupid, and so on. So people are just different. People are just different. So you kind of have to figure out where people are at and deal with them there. But yeah, something that is I think what Carl and AP are talking about here is frequently overlooked in apologetics, because people in apologetics are just usually just focusing on arguments and so on.
And also, it just seems to me a more sensible strategic position, because they've got nothing when it comes to the narrative.
Let's talk about atheists having nothing.
I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis as well. And I think the brilliance of Lewis was he actually integrated those things together, because he was a very clear thinker, very rationally minded, very analytical in some ways, but also an excellent storyteller and somebody who deeply understood myth and narrative and the need for a compelling heroic story. And I think Christianity offers the best of all worlds in that sense, because it is the greatest story ever told. It is the greatest of all heroes' journeys. Now, what somebody like Peterson is sort of trying to do is kind of see Jesus as, well, he's the ultimate hero, is the archetypal perfect man. There's only so far that you can really go with that, because Jesus has to be unique. But I mean, I find if you go back to the Gospels, it is an extraordinary, compelling narrative. I mean, just like go through them, just read them and feel the pathos of it. Just the moments between Jesus and his disciples, and then Jesus, the agony in the garden, the agony of the cross, and then the eucatastrophe, to use a great Tolkien word, the eucatastrophe of the resurrection, just when it's darkest.
Just wanted to pause real quick, because that's kind of funny. Earlier, when they were talking about when he said they didn't kill Christianity, they buried it, and then she kind of agreed that the new atheists weren't bringing up any new ideas; they were just kind of taking the momentum that had already that had come before them. But so they didn't kill Christianity. Christianity had kind of already been killed, like culturally. And then the new atheists came along and they buried it and acted like they were killing it, but they're just burying it, right? But she's talking about, the story of Jesus' death and resurrection, and the top comment over on this interview on Justin Brierly's channel. The top comment is, they didn't kill Christianity, they buried it. And you'll never believe what happened next. But that's what's kind of funny. They're talking about Christianity being killed, and yet this whole conversation about Christianity rising again, when that's like fundamental to the story, that something being dead is not the end. Anyway, I find that interesting that they're talking about the story of Christianity, the compelling story of Christianity, and yet it ties in directly to this whole we've killed Christianity, it's dead.
Christianity will rise again.
As Metro Man put it, reports of my death were greatly exaggerated.
And Mary Magdalene is weeping, and she can't even recognize Jesus. And then he just says, Mary. And that's it. She says, Rabbi. And so I think you can have it all, really. But it does ultimately have to be grounded in something true. So
that's my
I have to confess, I'm not a big fan of William Lane Craig myself. I don't think he necessarily does a great job selling the story, even though some of
the McGrews not big fans, as far as I know. They have completely different ways of approaching things from. Right.
Arguments are okay. And so I think we need to come up with better ways of getting people excited about Christianity, getting them excited about the story, about the narrative. Part of that actually might be a bit of a side note, but I think we need to create good fiction. We need more inklings, more new inklings. And Tolkien and Lewis kind of realized, I'm going to reach more people if I write books like Narnia than if I keep writing books of essays.
What is it about Lewis that...
That didn't work out. Nobody even heard of Narnia. So. Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's funny. I was mentioning the other day, my favorite book of fiction is Till We Have Faces, and it's not even, most people don't even bring that one up, Till We Have Faces. I pointed out that would be like Lord of the Rings level book if you story, as far as if you turned it into a movie. No one has. But anyway, it's that's an example of, he just tells a story, and it makes a point that he could have addressed in an essay or in a book, and that he did elsewhere. But it makes it much more interesting. But that is so she's saying, hey, maybe we need more good Christian stories. But AP, you should take that as more Christian songs.
You mentioned earlier has sort of struck a chord.
Let's take a couple of these super chats real quick, and then we'll finish this up. We're well over halfway through. Yeah. Let's see. That was the last one I think I covered. Men, children are arguing over fairies. Why'd they show up? AP D-Wood, check out my interview with Dr. Golan Broshi. Do you know Golan Broshi?
Nope.
Me neither. Check that out. There we have Rory. Hey, Rory, what's up? Rory says, Christ is the answer to world peace. It's true if you took his teaching seriously. Is it possible that the Islamic God is a corruption of the Trinity? Yes. Allah, word of Allah, pale white man, flock of birds versus Father, the Son, a.k.a. the Word, the Holy Spirit descends like a dove on the Son at his baptism. Yeah, if you look at what if you think about what I just said, like you've got Allah, and when Allah creates something, he just says be, and it pops into existence. But you've got Allah, and he breathes out his spirit, which means the spirit comes from within Allah. And in Islam, like these sort of things are supposed to be eternal. That's why they believe the Quran is eternal. Not all Muslims have always believed that. But there are Muslims who point out, wait, you can't have some big change in Allah where he's not speaking and then all of a sudden he speaks out his word and stuff like that. It must be eternal. So they end up with this situation, but they notice that exact same reasoning would apply to the spirit. If Allah is breathing out the spirit, then Allah would have to be breathing out the spirit from all eternity, or he had this big change at some point. So think about this. You've got Allah, and you've got Allah breathing out his spirit from all eternity, and Allah speaking out his word from all eternity. But the spirit appears as a man, that's in the Quran, and his word appears as a man, both as Jesus and, if you're talking about the Quran appears as a man. And so what do you do with this? You have Allah speaking out from all eternity, a man, and you've got Allah breathing out from all eternity, someone who appears as a man. And it's like, this seems like a bad copy of the Trinity and the Incarnation. It seems like a bad copy. And what's amazing is Muslims will just make fun of the Trinity and the Incarnation constantly. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
Let's see. Dawood Woo, put AP on your featured channels, Kafir. Do I have any featured channels? I don't know if I've ever even set that up. But yeah, I might do that.
You had it on your old channel. You might not have set that up on your new channel.
I'll check it out. I will check it out. AP, there is already an established reggae tune for Psalm 137 thanks to the Melodians. Just need to reverse the Rasta brain rot out of it.
Psalm 137 Melodians.
It's the Melodians. AP, stay away from organized religion. Just swapping cults. Hey, it's the same dude. It's the same dude. The man-child. I spend every waking moment complaining about religion because I'm free from religion. That's why I spend every waking moment whining about it in the super chats of videos as Christians are discussing things. Oh, it's so pathetic. Do something with your life, Red Sai. You got what? Let's assume you're 20. Well, I'll assume you're like 12 years old. But just think, I mean, you've got what, like 50, 60, 70 years left or something like that? Like, is this how you want to spend your life? Religion dumb.
Red Sai, something. I have to tell you one thing, which is I have absolutely no need. I repeat, I am in absolutely no need of being told that I should be staying away from organized religion. Simply just putting it like that, organized religion, followed by swapping cults, is simply a sign of your inability to assess things fairly by their own merits and by themselves. You are just putting all of it together into one giant pot and thinking, oh, it's all the same, all religion is the same, despite all their massive differences, despite all their massive doctrinal differences, despite all their massively different approaches to what is true and what is not true and all that. No, they are all just completely the same. Any religion, I don't even have to listen to any arguments, I don't have to listen to any reasoning, I don't have to listen to any emotion, I don't have to listen to anything at all. They're all the same, all completely the same. Well, okay, let me tell you about. No, I don't care. I don't care. They're all the same. Okay, but let me tell you about. No, they're all the same. This is basically how you're acting. It is stupid. It is brainless. It is not skepticism. It is not intelligent inquiry. It is none of those things. It is simply stupid. If you wanted to compare your approach of simply calling it organized religion and telling people to stay away from it, or referring to every single religion simply as cult and rejecting it outright in a blanket way without analyzing it, if you wanted to compare that attitude to a religious attitude, which is simply about, analyzing your own beliefs, deeply discerning them and all that, your approach, which is supposed to be the intellectual one, is actually significantly stupider. So you should not consider yourself intelligent. You should not consider yourself an intellectually rigorous or honest or advanced individual. You should not consider yourself a skeptic. You should not consider yourself any of these things, because you are directly, because you think it is cool and because you happen to be a fellow in a culture today that is that really loves stupidity, you adopt a very stupid approach that has nothing to do with being intellectually advanced or discerning and all that. With that said, I must tell you, once again, I have no need to be told that I should stay away from this religion or that religion. I thought for myself. Does it sound familiar, Red Sai?
You have to think like me and do what I say.
Well, that's what you should be doing too. You shouldn't be telling other people what they should and should not think. I did think for myself, and guess what? I feel significantly better. I told my priest yesterday, as I was talking about the whole baptism thing, I told him yesterday, I said I was wandering for a decade, aimlessly, in darkness, in emptiness,
pathetic,
in hopelessness. And along that entire time, during that entire time, for all those years, for that whole decade, I was trying to convince myself that I'm actually totally happy, that I'm actually totally good, but I knew very well, and to myself I would always admit it, that I'm really totally miserable. So I wandered for many, many years, for a decade, in darkness and nothingness and hopelessness, just waiting for something to happen or waiting for all of it to end. And then I started going to church, and then I started approaching things differently, and then I started believing, and I am significantly happier. Light came into my life. There was darkness, it is replaced by light. There was uncertainty, there was nothingness, it is replaced by something absolutely beautiful. And I love it. And I never want to get rid of it again. I never, ever want to lose it again. And your $2 here or £2 will not convince me to just put it away. So please stop being stupid, and maybe fix your own unhappiness, which obviously makes you obsess over other people's religious beliefs, and maybe try it as well.
So, Red Side, did that go the way you thought it would? So, is that the way you thought things would go when you posted your little comment here? Well, follow-up comment? That go the way you thought? Here's what's amazing. I mean, we're sitting here talking about the foundations of the new atheism and how it was just like this. They just targeted a bunch of gullible young people and said, hey, if you just go around saying everyone believes in a sky daddy, you will be the smart group. And then they've, like, Red Side's never grown out of that. And he's still, if I just go around saying, hey, don't follow organized religions, it's just swapping cults. Like, dude, when you say anything, we're thinking gullible moron who fell for a bunch of idiotic nonsense because he's gullible. And then, let's listen to him and build our lives around him. Like, what level of narcissist do you have to be to think that we would take anything you say seriously when you sound like a complete idiot? How many times did AP say stupid and stupider when referring to you? Thus the old rhyme. Thus the classic children's rhyme. I'll zoot go to Uranus to get more famous. Red Side goes to Jupiter to get more stupider. Remember that? Remember that old nursery rhyme? No, I said, because someone said I could work. Someone said I could Someone said I keep putting El Zut into. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for that enlightening comment, dude. You really blown our minds, and wow, we're gonna AP's definitely gonna change based on what you said. Off topic, but I have a theory. The sperm being produced between the backbone and ribs is describing the mutation from generations of inbreeding. That should be a Dawa argument. It's really a miracle. How could they know that generations of inbreeding would? Yeah. Want to say hi, wishing you the best on the new road to baptism, Ridvan, and David in his ventures of finding new ways to incorporate Al Zut into anything.
Thank you, Kira.
Yeah, actually, Kiara, I can insert Al Zut into anything, but not the way Al Zut inserted things into Muhammad. When I first started listening to you guys after October 7th and heard Ali Dawa's voice, I genuinely thought it was a masculine Muslima saying, and we're proud of that. Thank you for opening my eyes to Islam. When they heard us with the, I'm proud of that, they thought it was a girl. AP, keep speaking up. That's what he does. When has AP not spoken up? Well, like when?
Wait, the account is called AP Shut Up.
Oh. This is why you got to read the account names, ladies and gentlemen. So AP Shut Up. But I think that's Greta Thunberg there. Is that Greta Thunberg?
Yeah.
AP Shut Up says, AP keep speaking up. Good.
I will.
Here in South Africa, many people getting saved. I do street evangelism. I must say people from high churches here have very little power. If UK was mostly high churches, easy to wipe out Christianity. You hear that, AP? You and your high church?
Have little power? What? I don't understand.
AP's
high churches has very little power. If UK was mostly high churches, easy to...
I want to point out, everyone, AP is starting his orthofarianism, which would have a different meaning of high churches. Be a different kind of high church with AP's orthofarianism.
It took me a second to get the joke.
Because you're slow. Slow. My jokes are too highbrow for regular people to understand. They take time. They take time to get. That is good news about things changing. By the way, I'm hearing that from everywhere. I'm hearing that from almost any country I hear from. I'm hearing similar things. Atheist Christian Gadfly. Hey, Christian Gadfly, what's up? Atheists, everyone check out Christian Gadfly. He's got a weird sense of humor, So if you have a weird sense of humor, go check out his videos, and you'll be like, whoa, this is brilliant. Atheists have their own compelling myth, too, being on the side of reason and shining a light into the dark, etc. They succeeded in making me feel dumb to want God. That was the power of their myth. Yeah. Their myth is, you see, you're smart if you're in our group. AP is cooking. There are truths that go beyond propositional logic that a narrative captures better than a syllogism. You know, again, I'm always on the I'm on the side of like arguments and so on, but this is interesting that maybe we should maybe the people who are interested in the arguments should be thinking more along the lines of C.S. Lewis, like how do you package this in a way that actually includes the narrative and the story and so on. And then it'll be more. It'll get in people's heads more. That's all.
You know, I feel like my mind was poisoned. So what Christian Gadfly is pointing out here as well. I was poisoned over the years with this whole attitude of
atheism poisons everything.
Nice, which I adopted from atheism, or just from myself with atheism. I don't know, but I told you before. There was this monk who then became my sponsor, basically at the church that you briefly met.
I met that dude, huh? Oh yeah, he said. So is this your first Orthodox liturgy? And I said, yep. And he goes, what do you think? Kind of weird. He said, what do you think? What'd you think? Kind of weird? I was like, yeah, a little bit.
I love that guy. I mean, he has a great sense of humor despite being a monk and spending all this time.
Hey, I was telling you, if you I forget which in the John Wick movies, because it's like I think they're in Russia or something like that in the last one, but the Christians in those movies are all like these. The guys in your church all look like the Christians in John Wick movies who are all ready to pull out guns on a drop of a dime and so on.
Yeah. But anyway, what he was saying is what he basically told me. The second time that I went to church, I sat down to have a conversation with him because I felt like after so many years of just being full of this whole I must know everything. I do know everything. I only care about proof and reason and logic and all that. I sat down with him and I basically said to him, I have a problem that I'm just I have this hardcore proof attitude that I have to know something is true before I commit to it and so on. And then he gave me a speech, and I don't know what happened, but it's like just with the speech that he gave me that day, my whole world got turned upside down, because for a decade my thinking was basically kind of poisoned by this whole new atheist perspective, which was about everything must be reason and logic, reason logic, proof, evidence, proof. This is basically what my whole head was about, what my thoughts were basically very much about. And before that, I always had this idea that going for something with emotions is an embarrassing thing, and that everything must be presented in the most intellectually solid, completely logical, proven way and all that. And I thought that's what everything is about, basically. So it is a strange attitude, but I was very much poisoned by that whole going for proof only and reason and logic attitude. And something changed, and I accepted a little bit of humility and started accepting simply the human experience without trying to establish with logical arguments that something is 100% true. And it drew me closer to Christianity, to the narrative of it. And I started making peace with the idea of simply understanding and having faith in something instead of wanting to or desiring to absolutely know 100% every single aspect of it and knowing that everything that it's all true. So I replaced this whole obsession, this false obsession with this pseudo-intellectual new atheism with humility and faith, and it just brought goodness into my life. So Christian Gadfly has a point here in a very, very good way. And I just made that point in a much stupider way, but I definitely agree with Christian Gadfly here.
Yeah, he said it in 2 sentences.
Yeah, and I said it in like 50,000 words.
But I can say it in 10,000 words.
See, saying it in 5,000 words is better than just saying it in 1 sentence.
My husband asked, who are those 2 guys you're always lost to? What's that? Do you mean listening to? I replied, our surrogate sons, darling. That's funny.
Nice.
Grateful for your work, praying for all in your circle. YouTube channel Battle Ignorance defends what? Defends child marriage of may eternal torment be upon him. How do we stop it?
Battle Ignorance.
Defending child marriage. I mean, that's not something new. All the Dawa guys pretty much are defending child marriage right now. Just fortunately, there's a good time for exposing them.
What in the heck?
And keep in mind, if you go back 20 years, they were not defending child marriage. They were saying Islam doesn't teach child marriage. We had to make them admit that Islam taught child marriage, and then that's when they started defending it. And so now we're in the exposing what they really believe. First, we had to show people what they really believe. Now we're at the stage where we're showing people how disgusting it is. So keep in mind, you want them defending it. I mean, you don't want them to be successful in defending it, but you want them to defend it so that people see what their religion actually teaches.
I find it good. I mean, it's good that a channel has a huge video that is just about why it is Islamically okay to marry a 9-year-old. Please continue. Make more videos like that. I love it.
Yeah, make many powerful videos so we can expose you. But not in the way that Al-Zut exposed Muhammad. Jason says, Till We Have Faces is one of the best books I've ever read. Yep. Good book. Good stuff. Ferris with the super sticker. Thank you. D. Wood, I read The Man Who Was Thursday by G.K. Chesterton. It's a great polemic against anarchism, and I'm now reading Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. Oh, sup, AP. Yeah, that's funny. The Man Who Was Thursday, I don't remember. Here's what I remember most about The Man Who Was Thursday. You've got all these different characters. All the characters talk exactly like G.K. Chesterton. They all speak in this like extremely witty way. And it's funny because like when I'm reading his fiction stories and all the characters talk like G.K. Chesterton, it's funny because there's no one who talks like G.K. Chesterton except G.K. Chesterton, and yet all of his characters in his stories talk exactly like G.K. Chesterton. It's kind of funny, but it's funny when they start when they're talking amongst themselves and they all speak like G.K. Chesterton. Let's see. We have from FBI's Most Wanted Grape Dangler. Is your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life, AP?
Powerful.
There you have it. Hi, D-Wood AP. Dwop. Dwop. D-Wood AP. Hi, Dwop. Would y'all have Loai al-Sharif on your show or talk about one of his videos sometime? Not sure because I have no idea who that is. You know who that is?
Powerful. I think he's I'm not sure what his background is, but he's either a cultural Muslim or something, or an ex-Muslim or of sorts, but he might still be a Muslim. Might still identify as a Muslim, but he's basically like pro-Israel, anti-Islamic, anti-Islamism kind of guy.
Yeah, if you're interested in having him on, contact him and ask if he'd be interested in having a discussion. We do it. We do it because we're like that. The bigger the Zabiba, the smaller the leather strap. That's true.
Oh.
DebateCon 6. At DebateCon 6, an atheist said there are no heavenly fathers or earthly fathers. There are no earthly fathers. Did someone actually say that? There are no heavenly fathers and no earthly fathers. There's no such thing. They're all like anti-science now. Neil deGrasse Tyson is no biologist. Yeah, I mean, Richard Dawkins and I think a couple of other atheists left the Freedom from Religion Foundation for being anti-science. Isn't that ironic? That, oh, we're the champions of science! And then they have to leave, and then Dawkins has to leave because they become so... his views become heretical in that group. AP and David, hey, where is your proof? Prove it. That's a good point. My kid walked up to me at church with a red spot on his forehead, and without thinking, I blurted out, why do you have a Zabiba? So many weird looks. Well, what are you doing with that Zabiba? Isaiah 55, 8-9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor your ways my ways. The mystery of God can't be grasped with limited human mind alone. That's correct, Beast. Off topic, but I really believe the hadiths about Muhammad's death were actually inspired by God. The irony is just too perfect. Yeah, you can believe that God is doing something. Like you could actually, I made a video about that. You could actually believe that even though Muhammad's a false prophet and is making things up and is getting stuff from demons, you can believe that like God made the Islamic dilemma be in their sources to lead them out. You can also believe that God actually, that Muhammad's going around, if I were a false prophet, then Allah would curse me by making me die by my aorta being severed. You could believe that God actually said, oh, say what now? Oh, that's going to be the sign that you're a false prophet? Okay, boom, done. You can believe that. And it is kind of too perfect that, I mean, you look at what Islam has done to women, and you look at what Islam has done to Jews, and then Muhammad gets taken out by a Jewish woman and dies saying that he can feel his aorta being severed, where the Quran itself says that Allah would sever his aorta if he's making up revelations. And how did she poison him? Lamb. The lamb. Anyway, I'm a Christian, non-denominational, struggling with internet addiction and other bad habits and sins and not very happy. But to whom shall I go? Jesus has the words of eternal life. Love you guys. Yeah.
Internet addiction.
Yeah, and keep in mind,
yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, as far as the internet addiction, keep in mind when Jesus said, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. It wasn't talking about actually dismembering yourself, because guess what? If you have a problem with lust. Gouging out your eye doesn't solve that problem. Pretty much everyone thinks that he's talking about, hey, you just need to take extreme measures sometimes. So if you're having struggling with like internet addiction or something like that, just shut it down and smash your computer to pieces if you need to. But yep, deal with it. Dan Klaus says, is there such a thing as a worldview game in philosophy, a series of binary questions that land you at one of the many worldviews with ways to assess its validity, defeaters, non-contradiction? Not that I'm aware of, Dan, because philosophy is not a game. It's serious. But something tells me, Dan, that you've probably got that, right? And you're wondering if someone has come up with it before. As a young Christian man, can you recommend any books to read for self-improvement? Yeah, the Gospels. You kind of have to figure out. Kind of have to figure out what you mean, like improving in what way. I will say something that is massively neglected is like the power of habits, developing habits and so on, because people fall into bad habits without understanding how habits work and so on. There's a book called Atomic Habits. Start with that. That will help with everything. In fact, it should be a normal part of education, teaching people how habits work. I'm not talking about bad habits. I'm talking about any habits and so on, how there's a trigger for the behavior and so on. And this becomes ingrained in you until it becomes automatic and so on. Start with that. Hey, David, been a fan since I read Nabil's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. God bless you for helping him and AP find the truth. That's cool. Good book. French atheists be like, where is the proof? Yeah, that is true. Hi, AP. Thanks for watching my video on Weekend Pierce cuts Natasha 60 times. Funny thing. Oh, that was, looks like that was Elon's video.
Oh, nice.
Funny thing, I sent you DM Twitter before uploading. Wanted it on your profile, not mine. Probably got to the spam. Oh, so this person sent it to you. Sent it to you and wanted it to be on your profile, and then you screwed it up.
I actually saw that, but then I just decided to just repost it from you. I saw it afterwards, so thank you. Appreciate that.
Now you know.
Appreciate that.
AP, what a wonderful witness you just gave, brother. May God bless you and keep you, and may he shine his face upon you. Peace and love always to you and your family. From Michelle Marie.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Carl Benjamin believes that his heart cannot open toward Jesus because he has no spirit, but he is wrong. When he opens his heart to Jesus, he will receive the Spirit. Interesting. Yeah, it is. And we got 2 more super chats here, and I do want to get back to this. I want to hear where they go with this. Imagine a new culinary scandal. Instead of pineapple, add al-zut on a pizza. No, please don't. AP, you experience something called discernment. For example, never asking a question out loud, but suddenly getting an answer.
Nice.
And Right Pro says, my name is Al-Zutio. I have TP for your bundle. So he's going with instead of Cornholio, it's Al-Zutio. That's good. All right, let's catch the rest of this video here.
The way that Lewis thinks about the problems that he's tackling is a lot richer than most people, actually. It's a lot of people find themselves, I have my way of approaching this, and I'm going to follow that through to its logical conclusion, which is perfectly normal and perfectly fine. But Lewis thinks a level or two below that, and then comes to a richer and deeper conclusion at the end of it. Like the abolition of man is just such a good example of this, where Gaius and Titus why wouldn't they do the things that they're doing? Because they're not being critical of the very paradigm itself. And Lewis is getting beneath that and saying, well, look, this is where we end up if we treat man as just a fungible piece of meat that's floating on a rock in space. And he's right about that. He's fundamentally right. And it's not something that's self-evident. And that's one of the things I like about Lewis.
I suppose this does edge us towards apologetics, argument territory, because, one of the fundamental issues that I've often been in the middle of between atheists and Christians is, well, how do we ground the concept of human value, and that there is a kind of intrinsic wholeness to being a human, that we can't just be described in purely material terms. And it does potentially lead to those kinds of transhumanist sort of outcomes that he was describing in The Abolition of Man. That's why.
Yeah, it does. And that's why it's interesting, this, the narrative and so on, and then presuppositions, but then arguments, and making sure that positions are grounded and so on. But I mean, think about this, like the arguments that you would use, you want to reject all those arguments if you're an atheist, but like, what's at the end of that? What do you get? What do you win? What do you win if you reject the argument? Ha ha, I won. What'd you win? Tell us what your prize is.
I don't call myself an atheist, really. Well, I would say I'm agnostic, really, because I haven't got an answer for any of this. And I don't see anyone else having an answer for it either, because I know it's one of the
Christians say they do have an answer.
Well, sure, but on its own terms, it's an answer that an argument is kind of impossible to answer. So, I mean, I really get the feeling that it's not going to be possible to win back materialists to religion en masse. I unfortunately, I think that's true.
Despite a few wins in that.
There will obviously be a small cohort of people, but
So you're saying you're not going to win back the materialists based on arguments. It sounds like what he was saying. Interesting.
Mass, I don't think that's going to happen. But what I think is possible is to raise generations of children in the future who understand the importance of the Christian religion and its heritage to the West and its traditional place in the Western heart generally, and nurture that in the way that Lewis is talking about in The Abolition of Man, where the part of them that is appraising and allows them to say that this waterfall merits the beauty, that's being killed off in our schools all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And I think actually it'd be worth us being aware, it really is happening, and it really is a problem, and it's not natural. Like, I've got 4 children. Trust me, they all have the sense of wonder that Lewis is speaking of. They will be those people that Gaius and Titus are slowly but surely killing off. And we have to be very conscious of that. And if I were given control of the education system now, it would look very different and probably very Christian, even though I'm not one myself, which I realize is ironic. But
That's funny. Did you guys catch that? He said, if I ran the education system, it would be very Christian, even though I'm not a Christian. That is kind of a funny thing to say. Hey guys, how is this? Seriously, how is Carl Benjamin not prime minister?
He should be.
He should, shouldn't he?
Yes.
I view myself as living in a paradigm where I've had something taken away from me. Like, before I was able to walk, this had been taken away from me, and I don't want that taken away from my children. So, for example, my son...
Dang, you hear this? This is like profound stuff. I feel like something was taken away from me before I was able to, and I don't want it to be taken away from my children. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, he's 10 now, but when he was about 6 or 7, he's in a multicultural school, as children are, and he has friends who are Indian and they're Hindus, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, what am I? Am I a Christian?" I'm like, "Yes, you're a Christian." So, and I arbitrated a discussion between him and my eldest daughter, which said, "No, we're not Christian." I was like, "Yes, we are Christian." Like, just, this is where we are in the paradigm where we're Christian, Englishman, and this is what we are, and you be aware of it, basically. And so he's very readily said, "Oh, I like being Christian. I like Jesus. I like," that's brilliant, son. That's absolutely brilliant. I'm glad you get to have something I didn't have.
Okay.
And it really hit me when we got our children baptized. So my wife.
Did you just hear this? When we got our children baptized? Hold up. Wait, what am I missing here? Hang on, I just backed it up.
That's very, very nice.
His children have been baptized now? Hang on.
You get to have something I didn't have.
Okay.
And it really hit me when we got our children baptized. So my wife wanted all of our kids to be baptized in her local church, which I kind of hate. It's not the baptism, it's the church itself. It's just this empty red brick structure, and it just kind of reeks of modernity. And so I'm like, look, if
does he want like a cathedral or something?
If I'm going to go to religion, I want I want religion. Right?
You want an old building.
Yeah, it's not just. It doesn't have to just be an old building, but I want like they have like modern pop songs playing there, and I'm like, no. I want hymns. I want, let's do this properly if we're going to sit through it, right? And so, yeah. But anyway, when we were getting them baptized, they actually did have hymns, and I was sat there. I've never heard this before. I don't know the song. I don't know the tune. I don't know the lyrics. So I'm like watching everyone around me, like my mum, my dad, my aunties, my uncles, who themselves were forced to go to church when they were young, and they hated it. And they themselves are all atheists. But my dad is there singing with his chest out, like, whoa, and my mum's singing well as well. She's not enjoying it as much as my dad. But I can tell from my dad that what this is nostalgia. He's 10 years old on Sunday morning in the church singing when everything was normal and secure. And I don't have that. And I realized that was something that was missing.
Yeah.
And so I
have to say, this is like interesting stuff. like there's something missing from your life without this. And here's my dad, and he didn't really believe, but here he is. It's a part of him, but it wasn't a part of me. And I want it to be. I want my kids to have this.
When my chums say I'm interested in religion, that's great.
Any thoughts on any of what Carl has shared there, Becca?
Well, I think that's beautiful. I think that's great that you're not hindering them. You're just allowing them to explore and to feel free to reclaim their heritage in that sense. So I was thinking a little bit earlier, one of my favorite quotes, which I got via Lewis from God in the Dock, I think, from the essayist statesman A.J. Balfour, which is that in order for a creed to be truly consistent, there has to be a consonance between the accepted theory of origins and the accepted value of results. So what you have is something...
Theory of origins and value of results.
Valuable. It's something that was taken away from you, like you were saying. And so you get to think about, well, where did that come from? Well, it was handed down to my grandfather by his father, da, 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 da. Okay, but where did it come from, though? You keep going back and back and back and back and back. And eventually you hit this singularity, and it's sort of like the beginning of the world. I mean, and Tom Holland will talk about this, right? And you sort of have to ask yourself, this seems so valuable, but if my theory of origins is, nothingness, just this like meaninglessness, then this is not adding up. So at another C.S. Lewis thing, I don't remember where this is from, but something about you get to the end of the math problem, and you get something that obviously can't be right, so you have to go back and figure out what went wrong. And I think
that because they were talking about that. Carl was sort of saying something similar earlier on when he was talking about, you have your basic approach and you just carry that through. You keep carrying that through and go where it leads. But Thomas Reid, who was Hume's nemesis, but Thomas Reid, he said, if you're walking along a path and going where it leads and stuff, then you might think, hey, you're on the right path here. He goes, but if you suddenly find yourself in a coal pit, you should kind of reevaluate whether you're on the right path or whether that was even a path to be on. You ended up in a coal pit, right? But his point there is, hey, I have this methodology, and he's talking about like philosophy and stuff like that. If you got some philosophical method and it leads you to conclude that maybe I don't exist or something like that, okay, you should go back and realize that your entire methodology and approach was screwed up. Why? Look where it led. It's kind of like the new atheists and kind of everyone else should be like, okay, here was our view and here's where it led. Okay, what did it lead to? You're in a coal pit now. Maybe you were not on the right path. And you should be thinking about that right now.
That's what civilization has to do en masse at this point. You can't just keep bumbling forward. You have to stop. You have to turn around, go back, figure out what went wrong.
I think
Exactly.
one issue with this is that we're not properly orienting ourselves as a civilization, because the boomers did this for themselves, and that's not the right thing to do. They should have been thinking, what's good for my children? And I'm not trying to condemn an entire generation, but let's be fair, they were a pretty self-centered generation. And I've got to the point where now my wife is like, right, so we're going to take the kids to church. And I'm like, I don't want to, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to. And so basically,
Don't be a boomer. Yeah.
my wife
Don't
wants
be
to
a
start
boomer.
taking the kids to church, and that means my Sunday mornings are gone. But it's something that probably has to be done. Even though I'm not going to enjoy it, probably my children will be thankful when they're older. And
Dude, this is cool stuff, right? So this guy, he's an agnostic. But that was interesting what he just pointed out, that the boomers who were basically rejecting all this, they were doing it for themselves. And they're not thinking long term what impact is going to have on their children, what impact is going to have on society, and so on. And now they're to the point where they need to be thinking about these things. And what's the result for him? It's okay. Even though I don't even believe this, I'm going to church. I'm going to church, and I'm taking my family to church, and I'm sitting there singing hymns and sitting through the sermon with my kids, because this is something that they need. That's we obviously want Carl to believe in Jesus and so on, but you have to say, whatever else you think, he's being a good dad and he's being a darn good citizen right now.
as my parents, and I don't blame my parents either. It's not their fault. It was part of the zeitgeist of the times, right? They didn't know what they had. They didn't know what they were assuming would always be with them. And they didn't know what the consequences would be 50 years later. It's not their fault. And it's not worth pointing fingers and placing blame. But this is the consequence of that breakage of the tradition of the religious heritage of the West. And there's only one way to put it back together.
It's such a fascinating thing
It
just to
is.
hear you talk in these terms about being just sort of
It's extremely
reluctantly being
fascinating.
dragged into church because you know it's good for the kids. But it's fun, and it's a very different conversation to the one you and I probably would have had even 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, undoubtedly.
And all I can say is, well, obviously, I know you'll be open to potentially learning something by going on to church, but if it is a very boring sermon, bring along your copy of C.S. Lewis and just have it on.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
You can never go too wrong.
I tell you what.
Did he just tell him, hey, if you're worried about church being boring, bring a C.S. Lewis book? Is that what he just said? Because I was reading a comment. That's kind of funny then.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about C.S. Lewis. You just don't get the chest. He's rereadable.
Oh, yeah.
So sorry, chuffed and fouls.
I've been reading the letters of C.S. Lewis recently. It's a wonderful volume if you get a chance to read it. And like every other letter, I'm like, this is so relevant to right now. It's like, this was written in 1940, but it could have been written for today.
The letters of C.S. Lewis is actually interesting because apparently he responded to everyone who ever wrote him. In other words, if you were around during his time and you wrote him a letter and you had questions and stuff, he was known for responding to everyone who wrote him. And it was pointed out that he actually could have put out way more books if he didn't respond to every single person who ever wrote him. It's like interesting because you think you could kind of think about that in two ways. Like you can think, oh, well, he's wrong. He should have focused on writing more books because then we'd have even more C.S. Lewis books. But also like, think about like the people who actually had questions and were getting responses from C.S. Lewis. I mean, like what an impact that would make on their lives and stuff. So anyway, interesting.
It's fabulous.
It was just something he dashed off to a friend or a fan or whatever. It's like, gosh, I don't think, think about it. Our emails wouldn't be worth collecting between covers someday, right? But because he was Lewis, his letters are.
I saw you kind of nodding as well in agreement to sort of the fact that Carl prefers the older forms.
Oh, amen. Gosh, I can't. I mean, people I dearly love, and I don't want to, denigrate them or their taste in any way, but I am going to kind of denigrate their taste a little bit because it is. I grew up with a couple of different old hymnals, but all old and all just like the good old hymns, and it's really sad because there is a gradually, sort of falling away of knowledge of older kinds of music. Or
well, here's what I find interesting. It's like it's similar to when like people get used to like let's say like the King James Bible, and that's what the Bible's supposed to sound like, even though it's written in Koine Greek, which is like the common language of the time. But here's the thing: those hymns, those old hymns from a couple centuries ago, that you're like, oh, that's what hymns are supposed to sound like. Some of those were new sounding at the time, right? Like those would have been non-traditional at the time. It would have been new. I think there were even situations where there were hymns that were like drinking songs, like songs that people would sing in a bar or a tavern or something like that. And then they would like rewrite them as hymns that are glorifying God and so on. So anyway, point here is don't be hating on new music when some of these hymns were written at a time when they were new music. And it would have been like, oh, this is so weird. You're supposed to be singing in Latin. How dare you sing this in German?
But it is kind of cringe if like I mean, it's one thing if you look at a church service and it's like stuff being sung in English and modern English and all that, but then it's another thing if you look at a church service and then it's just like oh,
like a rock concert.
We love Jesus, we love Jesus, we love Jesus.
You heard it here, folks. AP has a problem with Christians singing about loving Jesus. We should all be sitting around going,
and then another preacher comes out and says, "Oh, I believe when I say." I'm just kidding. I mean, it's to each his own. It's just
that's actually my view. It's like what like you don't want to be completely like feelings and personality oriented when going to church. Otherwise, that's how, I don't like where they put their flowers on the wrong side of the stage. I like them on that side of the stage and they put them on that side. I'm going and picking a new church, right? And it's like that's a recipe for just Christians being split into a million different churches and denominations and so on. But at the same time, there are sort of general things. Some people prefer a more traditional approach. Some people prefer a more modern approach. And I would say, hey, whatever. Yep. If you prefer a more traditional approach, go the more traditional. If you prefer the more modern approach, then find a modern church and so on.
That is a funny thing. I mean, as I guess I've always had kind of more respect and reverence for the whole for the classical way of doing things, and I think I've always had like love for for Catholic hymns and all that. Then going to the Orthodox Church, it's very interesting because you're suddenly exposed to a completely different way of doing things in a classical or traditional way, because it's not like Western music. It is Byzantine music is quite different from Latin music, but I don't know. I love it, and I think people can appreciate the whole the traditional way of doing things. I was going to say something, but I just don't want to get into the different.
I was about to accuse you of being a terrible hypocrite because you're like, oh yes, it needs to be this. It needs to be something from 1,000 years ago. Okay, what's your latest song that you're putting out? My Zabiba is big. I got a big Zabiba, and then I've got my whole reggae album. It's like okay. All right. Let's see. They're going to wrap this up here.
You'll think it's going to be a hymn and that they tack on a chorus or something. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's not Amazing Grace.
I can go one word.
Chris Tomlin, we're looking at you.
Sorry, Chris.
So Christmas Eve, my wife was like, oh, can we go to the church? I said, yes, of course. We went to the church. And I feel duty bound to not say no. And so we went to this service Christmas Eve with the kids. And instead of doing hymns, which I thought, okay, I'm on hymns, but I'll do it because it's good for them. Instead of doing hymns, what they'd done is redubbed a pop song with Jesus. And I I actually came out of that angry. I was
You
like,
heard the Jesus-y version of Hallelujah? That's one of the worst.
no, it wasn't even like a good pop song. It was like a very contemporary, like, you know, it's something you'll hear on the radio that was terrible. I can't remember.
So we're going to take like a Katy Perry song and make a Christian song out of it. That does sound bad. Here's what sucks. I used to do that automatically when I was in prison, because they had people got music playing all day. People would buy TVs and they would have this music station playing the entire time. And so I would just remake the lyrics of whatever song. So when like DMX came out, y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, I'd be going around. Y'all gonna make me go to church up in here, right? So I'd just redo it like that. So I kind of get it, but yeah, in church that would be kind of weird. In other words, it could be kind of weird up in church. Me going, y'all gonna make me go to church up in here. Y'all gonna make me praise the Lord up in here. Y'all gonna make me preach the word up in. It'd be kind of weird.
Well, the thing is, I'm not sure if it actually works, but I guess many churches, many contemporary modern churches, that don't really have tradition. I guess the mindset is generally, people like the popular stuff, this pop culture, this pop music, in order to appeal to more people, in order to appeal to young people.
Yeah.
We should take this popular thing and should turn it Christian. But the thing is, I'm not sure if it actually works, because I'm pretty sure, my imagination is that people just start cringing at it and turning away from it. So I'm not sure if it actually works, but I'm just speaking anecdotally and from my own perspective.
That would kind of be a milder form of like that church advertisement you were showing me. Remember that Maria? You saw that? Remember that church advertisement you were showing me?
I don't remember. What are you talking
No, it was where they're doing all the LGBTQ stuff and
Oh,
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a milder form of that. We're just going to take music of pop songs and rework them into Christian songs. It's like, okay, that's a milder form of, we're going to take the entire morality of the world and like bring it in order to win more people over, in order to get more people in our church. And you pointing out, well, it kind of doesn't work like that, right? Yeah. Like, why are people even going to church if the church is just like the world out there? Like, if I'm going to go, like, why? What's the point?
And now I remember I showed you a video of what you mean is, I showed you a video from an Episcopal church where a man and a woman who are the clergy in charge were like, everybody's welcome here and stuff. Like, get out.
All right, let's see. They're wrapping up here.
But I was just like, my God, I'd rather a choir singing than this.
Well, all I can say is good for you for
It's just kind of funny that he's going to church and is like enraging him. That's pretty funny.
being there and being willing to kind of, grit your teeth and make that happen.
Very angry about it, Rust.
You'll probably find there's another church down the road where that might suit your aesthetic tendencies.
This is my wife's sort of ancestral church, where like she was baptized, her parents were baptized. And so, I can't.
We make sacrifices, don't we? So,
I have to say, he sounded like a really good dad, a really good husband, and a really good citizen in all of this. That's high quality there. Like, man, I cannot stand this. Like, even if I went to church, I would like it to be like this, and this is the opposite. But you know what? That's what my wife wants, and I'm going with my wife, and my kids are here. That's good. That's good stuff, man.
So, I'd be fascinated to pick it up again, maybe in a year or two, and just see what all this church going how it's turned out for you. But
to be honest, I might raise it.
It'd be funny if he comes back. He's like, I want to destroy all Christians because of this church. If he's like way more enraged about it
with them, I might say it's a female vicar or whatever the person in charge is. I might say, look, is there any chance you can just be a bit more old-fashioned? But I think actually that might get people on.
Yeah, there's going to be another contingent in the church saying, can we be a bit more modern? It's any church leader finds themselves in a bind.
I'm not sure, anyway, because I look at the people around, they don't look very impressive either. So I'm wondering if I can
So you can be part of the the young fogey brigade bringing back the old.
I want a bit of fire and brimstone. Like I was expecting lectures. I was expecting a lecture from the Bible, a moral lecture from the Bible. Nothing of the sort. I was like, come on, you know.
Well, duly noted, and thank you so much for the fun conversation. And thanks for being so candid as well about the journey you've been on, Carl. It was really fun.
I hope it's helpful. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Bethel, for being
awesome stuff. Good conversation, man.
That is what I appreciate about church, and I mean, I hear, or see and read of other places where they don't do that kind of stuff, and they just talk about contemporary things or about just how they feel about Jesus and all that. But what I appreciate about church is just the taking out the bringing in the scripture and then talking about it every single time. It's especially nice that I have been reading so much from the New Testament before I went to church, and then suddenly after all of these years going to church and then hearing passages in the church, and then the priest speaking about those passages, it makes me feel like, hey, I know this, I know about this, and I love it. It's good. I don't want to hear more about the world. I want to hear more about the Bible. That's good.
Everyone hear this? It's all about what I want. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Wow. Take these last few super chats. Muhammad meets Muhammad in the boom boom room. Why would Muhammad meet Muhammad? By the way, we've already kind of done that. We did Muhammad meets Media Muhammad. We had the real Muhammad meeting how he's portrayed in the media's version of Muhammad. That was classic. Can someone make a parody, please? Narrated Ibn Kachow from Sahih McQueen. Muhammad's like a highway. How's it gonna ride him all night long? We'd have to work on the meter a little bit, but yeah, that's a good idea. After this live stream, go watch Professor Rob Kuhn's Tolkien, Barfield, and Neoplatonism, How Metaphysics Molded Middle Earth. So many of the same are you? Oh, you know what? I'm going to watch that later on. I'm definitely going to do it. Oh, wait, I just remembered. I'm not a freaking nerd. Next super chat. Requesting AP and David to add Big John Steele, a YouTuber, for live video. Please put him in your inner circle. Big John Steele. He stole his name from Big John Studd, the wrestler. I don't know whether that's good or bad. Okay, Big John Studd, wrestler from the 80s.
You mean wrestler?
Yep. Big John Studd, liked him. Andre the Giant hated him because Andre the Giant would step over the top rope when he entered the ring, and he wanted to be the only guy who entered the ring by stepping over the top rope, but Big John Studd insisted on doing it as well, and Andre hated him for it, and would always actually beat the crap out of him, while they're wrestling. He would end up actually beating the crap out of him. So AP, check out Big John Steele. We will see. I like hymns in church, but Forrest Frank slaps in the car. I guess that's a distinction between AP's Zabiba, Zabiba, I got a big Zabiba. That slaps in the car, but you wouldn't want to sing it in church. Well, unless you had a song about, unless you had a church service that was talking about, you could have a church service that was going through the Sermon on the Mount and not being hypocrites and not wanting to be known for stuff, and then play that song as a mockery of Islam. One thing that was special about hymns was the doctrines that were taught through the lyrics. That is a difference, right? You were teaching profound theology. Mm-hmm. In other words, the songs were simultaneously, praising God and so on, but also it was a way to get theology into people's brains. It was a way to ingrain the theology in your brains. And most modern worship songs and so on, they've got the praise part down. You're praising God the entire time, but they've lost the idea of getting theology into people's heads. What are you laughing at? What?
Stupid comment. It doesn't even make sense. But people were talking about how this music slaps and that music slaps, and then Daniel Grin said, "In Islam, music slaps you." Like,
Oh,
that's what I said.
that was stupid. I thought it was going to be an Al Zoot joke, but fortunately it wasn't.
No.
It slaps. This music slaps, but not in the way Al Zoot. Slap Muhammad. I'm late, but as a Jamaican and therefore a reggae expert, I rate AP's song a 55 out of 9.
Nice. But what in the world does 55 out of 9
I don't know.
represent?
Maybe that's a Jamaican. Maybe that's a Jamaican thing.
Explain.
Jamaican me wonder what a 55 out of 9 is. You're wrong on this, D-Wood. It's hard to say we have a truth that goes back 2,000 years with music that changes every 15 minutes. As usual, new believer is writer. Well, think if you're going into a church now, and they've got their songs that are all modern, what do you? That's not gonna make you go, oh, what about that hymn from 2,000 years ago? By the way, what hymns do you have from 2,000 years ago? AP needs to watch the movie Jesus Revolution. I saw that. I watched that in the theater. That was a pretty good movie. Bethel McGrew's dad was one of my professors at Western Michigan University. He is a Cartesian dualist. His arch enemy was Big Al Planica. Yeah. Tim McGrew destroyed me in chess once when I played him. I actually, AP, you're not familiar with this, but there's what's the park? There's a park in, what park is that? I've been out of New York for a while, but in New York, I went to the park where there's all these, there's chess hustlers down there. There's all these dudes. They're actual chess hustlers. You go and sit down and you have to put up $5 or $10 and they'll play you with chess. And these dudes just destroy you. They destroy everything around there in chess, and they take everyone's money. But I was just doing it for fun. I knew the guy would school me because I hadn't played chess, and I hadn't played chess like since I was in prison and stuff. And I know this guy, that's all these guys do is play chess all day. So I knew they get destroyed, but I thought it'd be fun. So anyway, so I did that. And then I was like, Tim, you have to come and avenge me. But Bethel could have done it. She could have come and wrecked those dudes. It's kind of I've seen videos where people, where someone will go sit down, but it's actually like a chess prodigy and so on. So they'll go on and win. And the other thing is someone will go to play one of these guys, but they got an earpiece in, and it's actually like Magnus Carlsen and stuff, the world champion and stuff back then. Anyway, these are fun times. These are all fun times, man.
Dang. I'm just looking up. I wasn't really truly aware of this.
Hang on one second. That is correct. Washington Square Park. Chameleon knows it. Yeah, Washington Square Park. That's where they've got all these chess hustlers. What are you saying?
I'm just looking up how old the hymns are that we sing in the Orthodox Church, and I wasn't even aware of this. So the Trisagion hymn
Don't make up words.
1,500 years old, still being sung today. The Cherubic hymn, or the Cherubic hymn, 1,400 years old. Anaphora of Saint John Chrysostom, 1,600 years. So the general hymns that are sung in the Orthodox Church today, still, that you also heard, are generally 1,400 to 1,500 years old, or even older.
Well, that's what they say, but that's what they say. But how do they know?
That's pretty based.
Oh, I'm singing a hymn. It was composed by Moses, and you'll be like, "Oh, really? By Moses? Oh, I love it. It was so based." Oh boy. All right, final one here. I watched Sargon back in the New Atheist days and had some of the same opinions as him as I struggled with the aftermath of my service in Afghanistan. I am now a confirmed Catholic and starting my family as well.
Nice.
I am hearing that a lot, pretty much every day from different people. And so 2025, ladies and gentlemen, 2025, awesome year for revival everywhere. And I look at it as God saying, all right, you guys see where all your little theories led? Giving you another chance right now. Got another chance. And here we have hope. The lives never get old for you too. Such a blessing. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, everyone. If you came in late, I've got a link to AP's new music video about the Islamic dilemma. Be sure to share that everywhere. The discussion with Carl Benjamin and Bethel McGrew, the link to that is in the description in case you want to check that out more or share that. I will be, Lord willing, live with Robert Spencer tomorrow for This Week in Jihad, because the jihad never lets up. Anything else, AP?
Yeah. So although the Orthodox Church has preserved the tradition of singing all these old songs,
We're still on this?
I will soon replace it all with my new songs, such as
about Zabiba?
the Islamic Dilemma song and the Zabiba song. So
I'm telling you, I want an Islamic Dilemma song, but hip hop, man, hip hop. Just get the lyrics. I'll beatbox and do it myself. I will beatbox myself and do the rap lyrics myself.
It gonna be done.
Yeah, you got to make it like an old school style that you can beatbox to.
We'll do.
It'll be dope and bass. All right, everyone. We will catch you next time. Not sure when we're going to be live again. Probably Thursday or Friday or both. We'll see what happens. Always cool stuff coming out. Always cool stuff coming out. Stuff happening every day. Awesome, awesome year. Look around. Look around and see all the stuff to make you depressed and then realize, wait a minute, there's awesome, awesome signs that cool times are a-coming. We have I love you both. And chat, God bless. Thank you. And John, is this Big John Steele? No, it's just John. Regular John, not Big John Steele. At my church, RPCNA, we sing only psalms a cappella. In Latin.
No.
In Latin. No. That's why the Bible says, only sing your psalms in Latin, or you will be condemned to die the death.
Nice.
Oh, some of those actually sound cool. Anyway, all right, guys, we will catch you all next time. Gonna have cool stuff.
Also, by the way, something about the hymns. Just kidding. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and check out the song.
And stay away from Islam and check out my Mekmuta video if you missed it. It's very, very, very based.
Check out the Mekmuta video.
AP did a good job not laughing while I was talking to this dude.
It was very funny, but I did not laugh.
Classic D-Wood and AP. Catch you all next time.
The video turned out very, very well because I was filming. But anyway, thanks.
That is.